Chapter 1973. The glamorous duo. Not long after, Qin Nan returned to the Nine Heavens, immortal realm. His figure actually landed on a barren land. Congratulations, Senior Gambling Highness, you have successfully eliminated the Patriarch of the Evil Shrine. You will be rewarded with 3 Dao Arts. A respectful voice soon appeared in his mind. A wisp of immortal glow appeared out of nowhere and landed on his hand. It turned into a scroll. There are Dao Arts as rewards? It seems like the 24th sacred area has quite a lot of benefits. Qin Nan's eyes glittered. Every Dao Art was extremely precious in the Nine Heavens immortal realm. Little did Qin Nan know, the god envoys who were addicted to gambling only gave him a few immortal arts because he was the gambling supremacy. The others only received a few immortal arts. After putting the scroll away, Qin Nan glanced at his storage bag. Many badges were emitting a glow. Qin Nan scanned them one by one. Envoy Feng Hua and Supreme Chang Shao sent him some messages. They were not asking about his condition and if he had found the fortunate encounter. The 8 Brilliance Demon Emperor also sent him 99 messages. 98 of them were cursing Qin Nan, and one of them was asking where Qin Nan was. To Qin Nan's surprise, Mu Danian of the Dragon Phoenix Fire Lake sent him a few messages. He was concerned about his current situation and asked where he was. Qin Nan was not too bothered. He replied to Mu Danian's messages. He did not tell Mu Danian where he was. He only told Mu Danian that everything was fine and there was no need to worry about him. It has been 2 months since I left the Nine Heavens immortal realm. It seems like I should find a place to learn about the recent happenings in the first immortal realm. Qin Nan murmured. A lot of things would happen in 2 months. Besides, most of the news about the first immortal realm would not appear in the 10,000 Dao immortal badge. He would have to look for it himself. After changing his appearance and retracting his aura, Qin Nan flew into the distance. Soon after, he arrived at an ancient city. He found a restaurant that only cultivators above the 5th level of the heavenly immortal realm could enter. After paying a considerable amount of celestial stones, he sat down in a corner. There were quite a number of cultivators in the restaurant, and none of them used their spiritual force to converse with each other. Have you heard? A few days ago, 3 authorities of the Master Realm teamed up to kill Empress Feiyue in the Void Heaven Realm, but Empress Feiyue managed to overcome the danger and was unharmed. Why haven't I heard of such a big event? Empress Feiyue is truly terrifying. She's already unbeatable even though she has just achieved the Master Realm. I'm afraid it won't be long before she becomes the #1 Master of the Nine Heavens. Qin Nan was shocked. Empress Feiyue had achieved the Master Realm. That's insane. How long has it been since the Copper Mirror became a Nine Heavens Supreme? She has already achieved the Master Realm, Qin Nan exclaimed in his heart. He immediately sent a message to congratulate him. The red string on his wrist did not respond. It was obvious that the red string did not want to talk to him. Qin Nan rubbed his nose and continued to drink his wine. Apart from Empress Feiyue, most of the people were talking about the supreme transforming realms. They rarely talked about the Void Heaven Realm. After all, the Void Heaven Realm was on a higher level. Even if something huge happened in the Void Heaven Realm, it was not related to them. Jiang and I of the Extreme Living Gate is truly terrifying. Apparently, he has achieved the peak stage of the Peerless Ruler Realm recently. He was able to handle 2 Nine Heavens Supremes with ease. Isn't that obvious? Jiang and I is the reincarnation of a Master of Dao. The 9 Palace Golden Immortal Sect has been promoting the 10 great exceptional geniuses recently. Jiang and I is one of them. Who do you think is stronger between Jiang and I, the saint of the Mumen sect, and the saint of the Sherdao tribe? Qin Nan's eyes flickered with white flames. Jiang and I, you're here. Where have you been recently? TSK, didn't you see the exceptional geniuses of the tribe of immortal spirits, the Chijia tribe, the Wengu tribe, and the other ancient tribes have gathered in the third sacred area of the heavens and earth? That Lu Qinyin is seriously a great beauty. Did you notice? More exceptional geniuses and successors of the Master Realm have shown up, especially in the top 10 sacred areas. There are lots of battles taking place there. Brother, I advise you not to go to the 19th sacred area of the heavens and earth. Two exceptional geniuses called Zhang Gu and Yin Yi have shown up there. They are bloodthirsty and kill everyone they see. Many of them have already died. By the way, where's the successor of the fifth immortal, Qin Nan? Haven't we heard anything about him lately? Don't mention him, it's annoying. I was planning to go to the 24th sacred area of the heavens and earth, but it's full of people from the Sherdao tribe, the ancient taboo, and other formidable factions. Luckily, I'm quite observant. Otherwise, I would have been killed by them. Qin Nan listened to the conversations between the heaven immortals and peerless rulers throughout the day. He started off by drinking the wine, but he ended up drinking the wine one bottle at a time. The immortal wine sold by the inn was surprisingly good. It felt like a fire was burning in his heart after drinking it. He had been living a peaceful life by his father's side for a long time, yet he did not enjoy it all the time. He was still suitable to live in a place where the talents and geniuses were everywhere. I've heard enough. It's time to go to the 7th sacred area of the heavens and earth to retrieve the drop of blood of my past life, Qin Nan murmured. He vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, on the sacred ocean realm, at the boundary of the first immortal realm, the disciples of the mystical ruins who were usually proud and arrogant were currently crouching in a corner with a sullen look on their faces on a ship belonging to one of the formidable factions. Humph, a bunch of little kids, why did they have to learn to be pirates instead of other things? I'll be taking your storage pouches as a lesson to you. A beautiful woman waved her fist with a smug look on her face. The disciples of the mystical ruins cried in their hearts. Who the F***K was the pirate here? You can't be unreasonable just because you're pretty. Stop playing dumb, swear an immortal demon oath first, and then swear an oath of your heart. A woman with short white hair said with a calm smile, once you're done, you can choose to leave, or you can choose to sail the boat for us. The disciples of the mystical ruins twisted. Did they even have a choice? If they did not sail the boat, how were they going to survive in the sacred ocean realm on their own? Yes, sirs. However, they still submitted to the woman regardless of what they were thinking. They initially thought the two women were easy targets, yet they did not expect their cultivation to be so terrifying. Chapter 1974. The Supreme Blood Altar. The 7th sacred area of the heavens and earth was located in the Supreme Transforming Left Realm. Many cultivators, peerless rulers, and exceptional geniuses were heading to the 7th sacred area of the heavens and earth. The main reason was that apart from the natural resources and successions deep inside the area, there was a mysterious artifact called the Supreme Blood Altar. Rumors said the altar was built with the blood of countless 9 heavens supremes. It was impossible to take it away, refine it, or destroy it. Cultivators would surely comprehend something if they meditated on it for a day. The longer they meditated on it, the deeper their comprehension would be. Over the past few thousand years, many cultivators had achieved a breakthrough on the altar or learned some peerless art to achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm. The benefits were incredible. That being said, it was not easy to reach the altar. Both peak peerless rulers and heaven immortals had to capture something called the heaven-shrouding beast to find the altar. Qin Nan speculated that the drop of blood he had left in his past life was most likely inside the Supreme Blood Altar. A few hours later, Qin Nan arrived close to the 7th sacred area of the heavens and earth. He did not enter the cities floating in the sky. He activated the immortal eyes of the divine god of battle and scanned the place. There are at least 7 disciples of the Supreme Taoism factions and 30 disciples of the ancient tribes here, Qin Nan murmured. He stood still for a moment before unleashing his aura. He turned into a blinding blue ray and sprang into the entrance at lightning speed. Many experts were startled, yet they could not see anyone when they lifted their gaze. A few moments later, Qin Nan found himself in a new world. The land was in ruins with ravines everywhere. The place was in a complete mess. There were still auras of immortal arts lingering in the air. The sky above was gray, as if it was covered by a thin veil. Qin Nan raised his hand and fired an immortal ray at the man. A strange scene appeared. When this immortal light flew to a certain height, it directly disappeared. During the entire process, there was no fluctuation of power. Even Qin Nan's immortal eyes of the divine god of battle failed to notice anything amiss. The level of power involved in this sky had already far exceeded his realm. Qin Nan shook his head and stopped looking. He retracted his aura, released his divine sense, and flew towards the east. Very quickly, a day passed. Qin Nan's figure shuttled through an ancient forest. During this period of time, not to mention the heaven-shrouding beast, he did not even see a single demonic beast. It would be much more convenient if Doom was here. A thought emerged in Qin Nan's mind. It seemed that if there was a chance in the future, he would have to subdue a great demon. Sometimes he could help him, but most of the time, he could be his mount. It would be best if it was an immortal dragon. He remembered that the last time he stood on Small Worm's head, he was very happy. Unfortunately, there were only a few dragons in the 9 heavens immortal realm. It was not easy to find an immortal dragon. Even though Small Worm had ascended to the 9 heavens immortal realm, his cultivation was still too weak. He still needed to train in the Sky Taiwang sect. Qin Nan suddenly came to a stop while his thoughts were running wild. He had just sensed the faint auras of a few immortal arts in the distance. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. He immediately picked up his pace. A few moments later, Qin Nan saw a grassland covering a few hundred zhang wide. 10 figures were fighting in the sky. 4 of them were in the early stage of the Peerless Ruler realm, while the rest were peak heaven immortals. Not far away was a wooden cage emitting an immortal glow. It was imprisoning a beast that resembled an ancient horse with snow-white hair, muscular limbs, and glittering eyes. It was the heaven-shrouding beast. There are quite a lot of people keeping an eye on this place. 2 peerless rulers in the greater success stage. An exceptional genius peerless ruler? The white flames in Qin Nan's eyes flickered. He vanished into thin air and reappeared above the wooden cage. He smashed the wooden cage into pieces and landed firmly on the heaven-shrouding beast's back. The heaven-shrouding beast raised its hooves and struggled vigorously while uttering cries. Qin Nan's aura immediately intimidated it. It all happened so quickly. Many people were startled. They did not expect someone to make a move at a time like this. Didn't he know he was going to be surrounded? How dare you? The 4 peerless rulers in the early stage quickly collected their thoughts. They yelled and performed hand seals to execute immortal arts. Qin Nan threw a punch forward. Bang! A formidable force erupted like the eruption of 10,000 dragons. The 4 peerless rulers in the early stage were startled, but they could not react in time. They were knocked flying and suffered serious injuries. Such a strong cultivation. Many cultivators in the dark were astounded by the punch. How bold of you to dare to claim the heaven-shrouding beast for yourself! A loud voice appeared, followed by a bald man with thick eyebrows and big eyes, wearing a beast hide around his waist, and a skinny black-haired old man with only one eye walking out from the crowd. They were both peerless rulers in the greater success stage. You're... The black-haired old man immediately recognized Qin Nan's true appearance when he saw Qin Nan. He was startled. Somehow, he felt like he had seen the face somewhere before. Die. A cold voice said. The two peerless rulers in the greater success stage clearly sensed a strong murderous aura from the woods in the distance. They saw a young man with purple hair in a long robe with blue patterns slashing at Qin Nan at a terrifying pace with an ancient immortal sword in his hand. Sky-scorching fist. Qin Nan threw another punch. However, the tip of his fist was engulfed in white flames. The two attacks collided with one another, resulting in a huge blast. Strong gusts of wind swept across the place. The purple-haired young man took 5 steps back. He stared at the white flame that was still burning on the tip of the sword. A strange look appeared in his eyes as he said, "I didn't expect you to be an exceptional genius from the Nongyan clan." The two peerless rulers in the greater success stage noticed the purple-haired young man too. The eyes of the bald man widened. He said, "Are you the young master of the Jianwang tribe Jianjiao?" Jianjiao glanced at him. He executed the art of Dao seeking in his body, and unleashed a shocking sword intent. "Perfect, I didn't get to enjoy myself in the battle against Zhu Yan. Today, I shall have a taste of how strong the Nongyan tribe is." He pointed the tip of his sword at Qin Nan. At this moment, a burst of loud laughter rang out from afar. Chapter 1975. The first battle. A middle-aged man in rusty clothes stained with blood and emitting an ancient aura walked over from the distance while carrying a crescent-shaped saber. Even though Qin Nan and the others did not know the man, they could tell that he was a peak peerless ruler judging from his aura. Jian Jiao frowned slightly. He was not willing to team up with the others against a strong foe. However, he did not say a word in the end. He performed a hand seal with his left hand while swinging the sword with his right hand. The grass on the ground was immediately shattered into pieces by a sword intent. 9 melodies of sword. Jian Jiao made his move once again. His figure turned into countless shadows, each slashing at Qin Nan. Each of his slashes seemed to be enforcing the rules of the heavens and earth, with a hint of judgment. The middle-aged man shrugged upon seeing this. He grinned at Qin Nan and said, "Young man, you better hand over the heaven-shrouding beast. Otherwise, I'm going to be stained with blood when I'm too excited." As soon as he finished speaking, he made his move. Different golden-blue symbols lit up on the blade of the crescent moon saber. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Illusionary figures riding on horses and holding long sabers appeared from the rift in all directions. They were lined up in an orderly manner with a strong murderous aura. The middle-aged man's aura changed tremendously too, as if he had turned into an undefeatable commander during the chaotic era. Dao Art, Curse of 10,000 Generals. The bald man with thick brows and big eyes performed a hand seal to execute a Dao Art too. Normally, the 3 of them would not team up, but Qin Nan had broken some kind of rule. As long as Qin Nan was still riding on the heaven-shrouding beast, they would not show any mercy. Only the black-haired old man frowned. He was still in deep thought. He was too familiar with the face. He had a strong feeling that the young man with blue-red hair was no ordinary person. "He's surely done for." The cultivators hiding in the dark and the 4 peerless rulers who were defeated shook their heads upon seeing this. They could tell that the young man was at most in the greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm. Even an exceptional genius would not stand a chance against the 3 cultivators. Dragon crosses the heavens. Qin Nan made his move. He executed 2 arts of Dao seeking simultaneously. His figure turned into an enormous dragon that soared into the sky and tore the sword intent apart. Dao jolting saber art. The giant dragon claw grabbed the heaven-shattering saber and unleashed countless saber intents. Boom! Boom! A series of shocking explosions rang out. Qin Nan was fighting 3 people by himself, but he was not at a disadvantage at all. Sword comes, sword goes, sword rises, sword falls. Jian Jiao's hand technique suddenly changed. He placed the immortal sword vertically in front of him. He put 2 fingers together and drew a line from the hilt to the tip of the sword. Throughout the entire process, the surrounding space trembled violently. When the tip of the sword brushed past it, the space shattered with a loud bang. An invisible sword intent was established. It felt like a great emperor of swords had crossed the river of time and slashed at Qin Nan. The bald man let out a roar too. His body continued to expand until he turned into a golden giant over 10 zhang tall. His fist was covered in countless runes as he threw it at Qin Nan, gathering the strength of 10,000 generals to break everything. The peak peerless ruler immediately merged with the illusionary figures. His aura skyrocketed and reached a terrifying level. The three of them are using their strongest moves. He won't have the chance to back off if he doesn't back off now. The cultivators and the peerless rulers were startled. They had to admit that the strength of the three cultivators' attacks was nothing to scoff at, especially Jian Jiao. His sword intent was almost comparable to the strength of the peak peerless ruler. However, in the nick of time, even though the heaven-shrouding beast was crying out with fear in its eyes, Qin Nan still managed to pin it down and prevent it from backing away. The three cultivators were indeed extraordinary when they attacked together. Even his battle blood had a slight reaction. Sky Battle Dao, burning the world with a saber strike. Qin Nan slashed forward. A brilliant saber glow shone upon the crowd. The saber glow had merged with the will of the two arts of Dao seeking, the saber intense of the Dao jolting saber art, and the power of the Dao melting immortal flames. Its strength immediately reached a terrifying level. Bang! The sword intent, the power of the fist, and the strength of 10,000 generals were shattered into pieces at that instant. In addition to it, the remaining saber intent was still magnificent. The eyes of Jian Jiao, the bald man, and the middle-aged man widened. They quickly defended themselves. He broke through it? The cultivators nearby were dumbfounded. This man is no ordinary cultivator. The three of us have to work together. We can't fight on our own. Otherwise, we'll have to pay a great price to take him out. The smile on the middle-aged man's face completely disappeared. He quickly transmitted his voice. The sword glow in Jian Jiao's eyes grew stronger, yet he did not say a word. It was a sign that he had agreed. The bald man did not have any objections. I'll feint from the left, you two will attack from the right. Now! The middle-aged man yelled. The immortal force in his body became restless. He was about to make his move. However, in the nick of time, they saw a magnificent figure rising from Qin Nan's back. A formidable aura slammed into them like an ancient immortal mountain. The middle-aged man and Jian Jiao's expressions changed drastically as they retreated continuously. The blood in their bodies churned as they were greatly suppressed. The bald man let out a muffled groan as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Is that the Lord of all worlds? The cultivators nearby were startled. Among the exceptional geniuses, there was a huge difference between being able to use the Lord of all worlds and not being able to do so. Even though those who were unable to use the Lord of all worlds were not necessarily weak, those who were able to use the Lord of all worlds were definitely strong. After all, it was different for an exceptional genius to have a master or a relative in the master realm. How dare you? Jian Jiao and the others were dumbfounded too. I remember now your. The black-haired old man was astounded. He was struggling to believe it. Everyone, thanks for going easy on me. Qin Nan smiled. He withdrew his aura and patted the heaven-shrouding beast. The beast cooed and flew into the sky. Jian Jiao and the others wanted to chase after the beast, but Qin Nan was nowhere to be seen. They had no choice but to give up on the thought. As for the other two, they had no intention to chase after the beast. Even if the three of them teamed up, no one could guarantee the outcome of the battle. As for the black-haired old man, he did not say a word in the end. He left the seventh sacred area in excitement. Chapter 1976. 9 Ruined Cloud Wave, bring your men and head to the seventh sacred area at once. You must kill Qin Nan at all costs. Remember to watch out for the people of the Mumin sect and the Heaven-slaying sect. You can join hands with the Shurdao tribe if necessary. The ancient taboo must be on the move. You must capture Qin Nan before they do. Remember, you can't let him die. The successor of the fifth immortal, interesting. Let's go and take a look. In the blink of an eye, the various factions began to make their move. Similarly, the mysterious existences that were interested in Qin Nan and the exceptional geniuses that had heard of Qin Nan's name reacted the same way too. When the other cultivators saw this, they couldn't help but exclaim in their hearts. Among the 10 exceptional geniuses that the 9 Palace Golden Immortal sect had mentioned, only Qin Nan's appearance was enough to stir a great commotion. The influence of the other 9 exceptional geniuses paled in comparison to him by a large margin. As for Qin Nan, he did not care if the news about him was leaked after he entered the sacred area. He was completely attracted by the sight before him. As the heaven-shrouding beast flew across the gray sky, the scenery before it completely changed. Clouds with 9 different runes were clustered together, forming a sea of clouds. The clouds were illusionary without any substance. Qin Nan could not even touch them with his hand. However, the heaven-shrouding beast was able to step on them firmly with its hooves. It was quite mystical. In addition to it, the sea of clouds would change every once in a while. It was useless to rely on the route memorized by the heaven-shrouding beast after it had visited the Supreme Blood Altar. There's a lot of danger lurking in the sea of clouds? Qin Nan raised his brows when he saw the formations in the dark. He flicked his finger and applied a layer of immortal glow and will to the heaven-shrouding beast. The traps were not too strong. Even a peerless ruler in the early stage could handle them with ease. A moment later, a few figures appeared on the sea of clouds. There were peerless rulers in the early stage and peak peerless rulers riding on the heaven-shrouding beast. They glanced at Qin Nan and retracted their gazes. We don't know how long it will take. Qin Nan shook his head and simply closed his eyes to calm his mind. Time trickled by. 2 hours later. There were already more than 70 heaven-shrouding beasts above the sea of clouds, each carrying 1 or 2 cultivators. From a distance, they looked like a small army. What was different from before was that the left and right sides of the sea of clouds were no longer boundless. Instead, towering mountains, forests, palaces, and so on gradually appeared. Divine light flickered from time to time within them. Some of the cultivators who saw it hesitated for a moment before turning around and entering. It was one of the special things about the 7th sacred area of the heavens and earth. There were many fortunate encounters and successions along the way to the Supreme Blood Altar. However, the heaven-shrouding beast would die once it entered. The cultivator would have to return to the ground and continue searching for the heaven-shrouding beast before they could proceed to the Supreme Blood Altar. Another 2 hours later, Qin Nan and many cultivators opened their eyes simultaneously. The sea of clouds ahead was dyed red, as if it had been soaked in blood. A faint wisp of the will of a 9 heavens supreme lingered in the rift, causing everyone's heart to skip a beat. Go go go! Finally, the heaven-shrouding beasts came to a stop and uttered a series of cries. All the cultivators present could clearly sense that there was an extremely terrifying existence not far ahead of them. It was an existence that had existed since ancient times. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Qin Nan and the rest of the cultivators immediately emitted a brilliant glow. They turned into rays of light and flew into the distance. Is that the Supreme Blood Altar? A few moments later, Qin Nan came to a stop. An island with a circumference of over 100,000 zhang stood in the middle of the blood cloud. There were no plants or trees on it, nor were there any towering rocks. Its surface was extremely smooth, like a natural dojo. Currently, more than 30 figures were emitting shocking immortal glows on the island. They were fighting one another while executing Dao arts, resulting in a series of deafening blasts. The crowd was startled by the intensity of the battle. In the sky above the island floated a dark red altar with a length of 9,999 zhang and a height of 2,999 zhang. It was densely covered in mysterious runes. It was the Supreme Blood Altar. More than 20 cultivators were sitting on it with their legs crossed, trying to comprehend the Tao art. Meanwhile, it was emitting wisps of ancient aura that spread into the surroundings. Even Qin Nan was startled by it. The rest of the cultivators were greatly astounded too. The aura of the altar was too terrifying. Even a 9 Heavens Supreme would not be able to do it. Ha ha ha, the Supreme Blood Altar, I've finally found it. I can finally comprehend the art of Tao seeking. Not far away from Qin Nan, a bulky middle-aged man with a formidable aura burst out laughing and charged at the Supreme Blood Altar. If you don't obey the rules, we will eliminate you together. A cold voice rang out, and the 30 or so cultivators who were in the middle of a battle all glanced at him coldly. Even though the middle-aged man was a peerless ruler in the greater success stage, his body tensed up too. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. He did not dare to take another step forward. Upon seeing this, Qin Nan glanced at the island and discovered rows of majestic words with blood-red handprints at the bottom left corner of the island. It's the first time I've seen the Supreme Blood Altar. I'm well aware of its power. It's meaningless to fight one another for a spot. Why don't you go to the island and refine a blood talisman on your waist? Those who have 3 blood talismans will be allowed to enter the Supreme Blood Altar. No one is allowed to stop you. If anyone tries to force their way into the altar, the others will stop them. Those who are stubborn will be killed. There are already 60 people on the Supreme Blood Altar. No one is allowed to enter after that. It's a promise between gentlemen. There's no need to swear an oath. I just hope everyone will abide by it to prevent blood from flowing like a river. Qin Nan agreed. If there were no rules and they continued to fight one another recklessly, it would only bring about a tragedy in the end. Qin Nan and many cultivators immediately went to the island. Rays of blood-red light burst out from the ancient characters, and a blood talisman hung upside down on their waists. I still need 2 more. Qin Nan's eyes burst into white flames. He glanced at the cultivators nearby. Kid, consider yourself unlucky. Chapter 1977. Sky Lock. Qin Nan's portrait was widely circulated in the 10,000 Dao Immortal Badge. Many people had seen it before. The white-robed man was one of them, thus he immediately recognized Qin Nan's true identity. Qin Nan. The successor of the 5th immortal Qin Nan? At that instant, every cultivator on the island glanced at Qin Nan in astonishment. Qin Nan reclaimed his appearance and said with a calm smile, "Cultivator, excuse me." A formidable aura soared into the sky. His figure turned into a shadow as he pointed at the white-robed man. Crap! The white-robed man was startled. He drew a flower with the sword in his hand. Wisps of sword intense surged in all directions with him at the center. Even though his reaction was quick, it did not make any difference. Many people only saw a white glow flickering among the sword intense before Qin Nan reappeared 30 zhang away with a blood talisman in his hand. Such a quick movement. Many cultivators were astounded. Even peak peerless rulers would struggle to execute such a movement technique. The white-robed man stood in place with a pale face. If Qin Nan did not retrieve the talisman but used a killing blow instead, would he still be alive? Impressive, as expected of the famous Qin Nan. A middle-aged man wearing a dragon crown and a purple-blue robe with an imperious appearance clapped his hands and said, "I might not be an exceptional genius, but I've always wanted to learn from you." After saying this, the middle-aged man made his move. He took out a golden seal from his storage bag and slapped it in the air. Instantly, a deafening explosion took place, as a tremendous force crushed downward. Qin Nan had no idea who the middle-aged man was, But he quickly realized that the man was a peak peerless ruler from the extreme living gate after taking a quick glance. He had long been at odds with the extreme living gate. The people of the extreme living gate would not let him go easily. Dragon's soaring art. Qin Nan executed 2 arts of Tao seeking simultaneously. The illusionary dragon claws tore the formidable force apart as he charged at the middle-aged man like a peerless immortal saber. The middle-aged man felt a great pressure surging at him. His heart sank, yet his eyes showed no sign of panic. Qin Nan, take this! 3 roars took place simultaneously. A peak peerless ruler and 2 peerless rulers in the greater success stage unleashed their immortal force as they performed hand seals to execute 3 different Tao arts. They were the cultivators of the extreme living gate. Doom was not willing to follow Qin Nan because he already had so many enemies before the secrets of Qin Nan's body were exposed. He was going to bump into them at any time. What would happen if they were exposed? Tao melting immortal flames, Tao jolting saber art. White flames burst out of Qin Nan's body and spread in all directions. The saber in his hand slashed at the 4 peerless rulers like rainbows. Fellow cultivators, if your factions aren't willing to see Qin Nan grow any stronger, you should attack him now. Otherwise, we won't have as many chances as before. The middle-aged man yelled. His eyes flickered. The middle-aged man knew it was impossible for the 4 of them to take on Qin Nan. However, he was confident that many people were after Qin Nan's life. That's right. The thought crossed some people's minds. They immediately emitted eye-catching immortal glows as they executed all kinds of killing moves. 3 peak peerless rulers, 5 peerless rulers in the greater success stage, and 7 peerless rulers in the early stage surrounded Qin Nan. Among the 11 people that joined the fray, there were disciples and elders of the Nongyen tribe, the ancient Bodhi temple, and the superfluous lifeless sect. Roar. A beastly roar took place. An enormous creature covered in spikes and emitting a white glow walked out from the rift. A cultivator in a black robe was standing on its head. The cultivator in the black robe flung his sleeve. The enormous creature immediately opened its bloody mouth and bit at Qin Nan. Wanli is making his move. Some of the cultivators exclaimed. Wanli was the young master of the Beastmaster tribe. He was an exceptional genius. Humph! A few of the cultivators wore disdainful looks. They were also exceptional geniuses. They were interested in Qin Nan. They wanted to fight him too. However, they did not make their move when they saw Qin Nan being surrounded. They did not want to take advantage of the situation. After all, they did not have any conflict of interest with Qin Nan. That being said, both they and the rest of the cultivators were watching the battle. They were eager to witness Qin Nan's capabilities. Qin Nan's eyes were engulfed in white flames. His expression remained calm. He was not worried that his identity would be exposed. He was already prepared to be surrounded. I'm afraid these aren't the only people that want to kill me, especially when I'm on the Supreme Blood Altar. They might make their move while I'm meditating. Even if I can handle it, it's going to be troublesome. The thought crossed Qin Nan's mind. He immediately made up his mind. If that's the case, I'll show them what I'm made of. Qin Nan performed a hand seal. His aura skyrocketed. A magnificent blue glow flickered behind him as an ancient figure floated in the air. Following that, an incomparably imposing figure appeared above the entire island. The divine battle spirit and the Lord of all worlds were unleashed simultaneously. Bang! A formidable aura surged in all directions like a surging tide. The eyes of the exceptional genius called Wanli, the middle-aged man, and the rest of the peerless rulers widened. Their hearts were trembling as they felt a great pressure. Tree of Tao. Qin Nan waved his hand. A towering tree sprang forward at lightning speed and crushed down on Wanli and the rest of the peerless rulers. The entire island shuddered violently, as if a heavenly hammer had just struck down from the sky. Wanli and the rest of the peerless rulers were startled. They immediately executed their moves when they sensed a great danger. Bang bang bang! A series of explosions took place. Tao arts and Tao treasures were destroyed one after another. Wanli and the rest of the peerless rulers groaned in pain. They were knocked flying and slammed heavily into the distance. A terrifying aura swept out in all directions like an unparalleled storm. The rest of the exceptional geniuses and cultivators were astounded. An exceptional genius and 16 peerless rulers were defeated just like that? Besides, Qin Nan had only used 2 moves, including the Lord of all Worlds. Chapter 1978. When Qin Nan landed on the blood altar, the whole island remained silent. Even though some people were aware of Qin Nan's intention, the power that Qin Nan unleashed was just too terrifying. It had completely surpassed their understanding of the peerless ruler realm. Qin Nan came to a stop and glanced at Wanli and the others who were lying in the pit. He said calmly, "From now on, I don't want anyone to harm me. Otherwise, you will have to bear the consequences." Threads of faintly discernible chilliness rose in the hearts of many people, causing some of their original thoughts to be instantly extinguished. If they killed the successor of the 5th immortal, the benefits that they would receive would be unimaginable. However, they could not afford to offend him. Qin Nan withdrew his gaze. He ignored the crowd and looked at the supreme blood altar. Most of the people sitting on the altar were peak peerless rulers. A few of them were emitting formidable energy. Even if they were not exceptional geniuses, they were still extraordinary. They were calmly immersed in their thoughts. They were completely unaware of Qin Nan's arrival. Qin Nan tried to activate the immortal eyes of the divine god of battle, but the energy ripples inside the supreme blood altar were just too shocking. He was unable to peek through them. Normally, if the drop of blood from my past life is inside the altar, it should be able to sense something. Even if it's not, the ownerless heaven pattern should be able to react too. Qin Nan frowned. Could it be that the drop of blood was not here? Screw it, since I'm already here, I must find out the truth. Qin Nan murmured. He unleashed the white-blue flower from his divine sense and placed it on the supreme blood altar. With the flower of eternity nearby, it could guarantee that he would not be in any danger when he was trying his best to comprehend the formation. Secondly, if there was anything sealed inside the supreme blood altar, such as successions, fortunate encounters, or ancient secrets, it would be awakened in advance. Qin Nan took a deep breath. He sat down with his legs crossed and closed his eyes. At this moment, an invisible mysterious power passed through his body and poured into his mind, causing him to enter a state of emptiness. This emptiness was different from ordinary emptiness. Qin Nan himself could feel this emptiness. He was like an outsider who had entered Qin Nan's body. He could see all the power in his body, as well as his heart and soul. Moreover, his mind was still pure, without any distracting thoughts, just watching like this. The divine battle spirit fights against the heavens and the earth. There is nothing it does not fight, and nothing it does not triumph over. Why can there only be one martial ancestor tree in this world? Can't I have 3, 8, or 9? Southern Heaven Gate, I'm not done with you. How do I ascend to immortality? If the ownerless heaven pattern has such an ability, doesn't that mean I can practice their arts of Tao seeking by recruiting the geniuses of the other supreme Taoism factions? Who was my previous life? I will never doubt the war god. The scenes that Qin Nan had experienced and the thoughts that he once had popped up in his mind like bamboo shoots after a rain. He turned himself into an outsider and simply watched. There were 2 states of calmness. The first one was to forget everything, and the second one was to have thoughts without thoughts. Even the exceptional geniuses, 9 heaven supremes, and masters of Tao were unable to enter the second state of calmness when they were cultivating in seclusion. The power of the supreme blood altar was able to help them achieve this. Time passed by slowly. Outside the 7th sacred area, Under the attention of the cultivators, several cultivators entered the entrance with powerful auras. Exclamations of exclamations took place from time to time. More than 100 cultivators were fighting one another fiercely on the island. Qin Nan's threat was extremely effective. No one dared to disturb him. Meanwhile, wisps of 9-colored Dao glow flowed out of his body from the tree of Dao and circulated through his meridians. The 13 arts of Dao seeking and the secrets of Qin Nan's immortal arts and Dao arts appeared in his mind like pictures. There was an ancient saying that the first state was to see a mountain as a mountain and a river as water. The second state was to see a mountain as a mountain and a river as water. The third state was to see a mountain as a mountain and a river as water. It basically meant that a beginner would not be able to sense anything. Those who succeeded would be able to comprehend something, while those who achieved greater success would return to their original state. Returning to the original state was not something that could be achieved simply by having the thought in mind. The only way was to accumulate it bit by bit until it reached the peak and had a breakthrough. It was similar to the popular saying of Buddhism, "Lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha." Could a peerless demon really become a Buddha if he laid down the knife in his hand? It was impossible. Only when the obsession, the worldview, and the thoughts in his heart crumbled and ceased to exist would he become a Buddha. Qin Nan was having the same feeling too. Everything he had accumulated was gone in an instant. 5 hours later, Qin Nan's eyes slowly sprang open as he slowly regained his focus. Buzz! Saber Chi soared into the sky like a matchless rainbow from his body. A snow-white light illuminated the entire island. Qin Nan's aura is completely different from before. It's only been 20 hours, yet he has already had a breakthrough. The cultivators were astounded once again. This Supreme Blood Altar is indeed a great place. Qin Nan could not help but grin as he sensed the changes taking place in his body. The Supreme Blood Altar still hasn't reacted under the influence of the Flower of Eternity? Qin Nan shook his head after taking a quick glance. He was about to sit down with his legs crossed again. He had a feeling that if he stayed on the Supreme Blood Altar for a longer period of time, the 13 arts of Dao seeking that he had practiced would surely have a breakthrough. He had a great chance of achieving the peak Peerless Ruler realm too. However, the enormous Supreme Blood Altar suddenly shuddered. Even though it was very faint, Qin Nan clearly sensed it too. Qin Nan raised his brows. He fixed his gaze on the altar. The altar shook even harder. Many cultivators who were in the middle of a battle felt it too. Qin Nan soon saw a formidable force rising from deep inside the Supreme Blood Altar at a shocking pace. Bang! The Supreme Blood Altar emitted a terrifying blood-red glow that lit up the surroundings. Chapter 1979. Each throne was around 20 zhang tall and 13 zhang wide. They seemed to be illusionary while emitting an imperious aura, as if each of them could suppress the heavens and earth. What's going on? Why are they here? The cultivators on the island, including the 30 cultivators cultivating in seclusion on the Supreme Blood Altar, were startled. They were astounded. They had never heard anyone mention that there were 16 thrones on the Supreme Blood Altar in the past few thousand years. A few thoughts crossed Qin Nan's mind as he raised his head. Let's go and take a look. He withdrew the Flower of Eternity and turned into a blue ray heading for the first throne on the right. Since ancient times, the right side had always been the most respected. Let's go too. The other cultivators collected their thoughts and performed hand seals. They turned into rays of light and soared into the sky. The Supreme Blood Altar had undergone an unprecedented change. It might be a great fortunate encounter. That being said, it might also be a deadly trap. However, it was definitely worth the risk. If it was a great fortunate encounter, the benefits they would receive would be shocking. They might even be able to alter their destinies and soar into the heavens. Qin Nan was the first to land on the first throne. The moment he landed on it, a strange feeling rose in his heart. It was as if he had become a peerless emperor, and no cultivator in the heavens and earth would stand a chance against him. Friend Qin Nan, I've admired you for a long time. Please enlighten me. An exceptional genius from an ancient tribe arrived in front of Qin Nan. He was holding an ancient spear in his hand. The spear glow was extremely sharp, as if it was going to penetrate everything. However, before Qin Nan could make his move, he heard a loud bang. The spear glow landed around 10 zhang in front of the throne. It could not advance any further, as if it had hit a huge mountain. No one will be able to enter the throne after it. The eyes of the other cultivators burned passionately when they realized this. The battles between them intensified, resulting in a series of deafening explosions. One had to know that even though there were rules that had been passed down for thousands of years on the sovereign blood altar, those rules were empty after all. If one were to be assassinated while comprehending, it would be extremely dangerous. However, this blood throne was completely different. The peerless genius with the spear twisted his lips, feeling slightly troubled. Qin Nan let out a smile and said, "Don't worry, there's still plenty of time." The exceptional genius nodded and brought his fists together before leaving. The other cultivators also stopped staring at Qin Nan. "That's convenient," Qin Nan muttered to himself as he began to carefully observe the blood throne. From the moment he came up until now, the blood throne had always been quiet, not showing any other changes. Moreover, some of the patterns on it seemed to be a diagram, recording something. After looking at it for a while, Qin Nan still couldn't see anything special about it. After thinking for a while, he tried sitting cross-legged, closing his eyes and spreading out his consciousness. Dong! The sound of a bell echoed in his divine sense. In his sea of consciousness, an image appeared directly. In the boundless blood-red color, an unimaginably huge ancient city floated silently, eternally motionless. However, it was extremely illusionary, as if it was covered by a veil. It was impossible to see it clearly. 16 blood emperors' thrones, 16 successions. You now have 2 paths in front of you, 6 stages in total. Which one will you choose? The different paths will result in different outcomes. Everything is the same. An ancient voice entered Qin Nan's divine sense. Qin Nan frowned. So there were only 16 successions hidden inside the supreme blood altar? Whoosh! Meanwhile, the ownerless heaven pattern in Qin Nan's divine sense suddenly woke up. It emitted a chaotic glow that penetrated the image and entered the city. It felt like time had frozen. Everything in the image gradually became clearer. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. The towering walls had statues of dragons, phoenixes, and other beasts on them. There were at least 100 of them, each with a terrifying aura that could destroy the heavens and earth. They were not carved out of rocks, but refined from living beasts. Their cultivation must have reached the 9 heavens supreme realm when they were still alive. A few hundred 9 heavens supreme beasts were used to construct a wall. How shocking was that? Whoosh! Qin Nan's thoughts shuddered like ripples on the surface of a lake. A long-lost, familiar, and other complicated emotions rose in his heart. At the same time, he sensed that there was something that belonged to him in this terrifying city. So the drop of blood is inside here? Qin Nan collected his thoughts and took a deep breath. For some reason, he was having an indescribable feeling, just like when he first encountered the left eye of the divine god of battle. Master, use all your will to stare at the plaque at the center of the city, to summon the city from the supreme blood altar. The ownerless heaven pattern's voice came from the ownerless heaven pattern. The ownerless heaven pattern continued to emit light as it entered the illusionary image. Stare at the plaque? Qin Nan quickly calmed his thoughts. He gathered his will and stared at the plaque. As he thought, there was a plaque at the center of the city. There were 3 vigorous and majestic words written on top of the scroll. Capital of Future. Capital of Future? Is it referring to me? Did my past life already expect this when he left the drop of blood behind? The thought crossed Qin Nan's mind. He did not overthink it. He focused on the plaque. He immediately entered a mystical state. It felt like he had found himself on a flight of stairs. He kept going up until he reached the end. The restraints and seals were gone. Interesting. Empress Feiyue came to a stop in the void heaven realm. She was observing Qin Nan's condition through the red string of 3 lifetimes. Since Qin Nan came to the Supreme Blood Altar, she had been observing him instead of the Master of Tao who had been following her. Qin Nan knew Empress Feiyue would notice his condition, but little did he know, a mysterious demonic aura was rising from his heart. Chapter 1980. Meanwhile, a peak peerless ruler and the exceptional genius Wan Li were the first to enter the 2 thrones of the Blood Emperor with shocking moves. Not long after, 2 shocking rare phenomena took place with wisps of immortal qi surging in the surroundings. They were unable to see through the secrets of the capital of future. They had no choice but to follow the ancient voice and choose one of the 16 supreme successions. When the other cultivators saw this, they didn't understand what was going on, but they could guess what was going on. Immediately, the fighting between them became even more intense, shaking heaven and earth. Time gradually passed. 3 hours were gone fairly quickly. Many cultivators suffered serious injuries. They had no choice but to return to the island. More than half of the 16 Blood Emperor thrones were occupied. Who would have thought that the Supreme Blood Altar that has been peaceful for a few thousand years would trigger such a huge change as soon as Qin Nan showed up? How interesting, very interesting. A deep voice murmured. Some cultivators turned around and saw a young man with a pale face who was carrying a red coffin on his back. Their pupils immediately shrank. Yi was quite reputable among the Supreme Transforming Realm. Not only was he the son of a phantom master, he often visited battlefields to collect corpses and ambush people. He had offended many people in the past. Most cultivators were disgusted by him too. Meanwhile, immortal rays appeared in the rift above the island and formed an ancient formation. Several figures appeared from the formation. Lu Qinin of the tribe of immortal spirits, Zhu Yan of the Nongyan tribe, and Gu Xiaoyao of the Wenga tribe? The cultivators were startled. Even the cultivators who were in the middle of a fight could not help but look at them. It was rare for 4 reputable exceptional geniuses to show up at the same time. Lu Qinin was wearing a long blue dress. Her long hair was tied up, revealing her delicate collarbone. She was wearing a white jade bracelet on her wrist. Her aura had reached the greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm. Zhu Yan and Gu Xiaoyao had the same cultivation too. Although 2 months wasn't a long time, it was enough for these exceptional geniuses to improve greatly. Lu Qinin glanced at Yi without saying a word. She then looked at Qin Nan, who was sitting on the first throne with his eyes closed, and said softly, "Fellow cultivators, since we're all here, why don't you show yourselves? It's meaningless to hide in the dark." Haha, fellow Taoists, Lu's perception is truly unmatched. A burst of loud laughter resounded as a young man with short purple hair walked over from afar while cracking his fingers. Behind him were 2 middle-aged men with extraordinary auras and sharp gazes. The Sherdao clan is indeed powerful. They actually got 3 heaven-shrouding beasts at once. A smile appeared on Yin Yi's pale face. The 7th sacred area is quite lively. Soon, another calm voice sounded. A young man with a black belt on his forehead and black eyes walked out from the other side. A woman with a red belt on her forehead and red eyes walked out from the other side. At the same time, in a corner of the island, the void suddenly twisted, and 3 figures in white robes with the word "Kill" written in blood on their backs appeared. The people of the heaven-slaying sect again? The eyes of Lu Qinin, Gu Xiaoyao, Zhu Yan, Yi, and the rest of the exceptional geniuses flickered. They could not help but wonder what was the relationship between Qin Nan and the heaven-slaying sect. The latter kept sending people to help him, Why are there so few people here? Didn't a lot of people come to the 7th sacred area? How disappointing! Someone exclaimed as 10 figures in black robes walked out from the distance. 9 of the black-robed men had white bones under their black robes. Green flames danced in their eye sockets. Only the one who spoke had white bones on his hand. His face was covered with mysterious blood patterns. That's Xiang Yuanxing of the Sherdao tribe. The black and red immortals of the Mumen sect are here too. Meng Shangyue, one of the 5 rebels of the ancient taboo, is here too. The eyes of the cultivators were filled with astonishment when they saw the formation. Apart from the death zone in the 1st sacred area, it was rare to see so many reputable, exceptional geniuses gathered together. That being said, they clearly knew that these people were here for Qin Nan. Hee, Brother Meng, why do you say that? The cultivators of the heaven-repelling ancient sect are still waiting in the distance. Besides, aren't the experts of the ancient taboo, the Sherdao tribe, and the Mumen sect looking for the heaven-shrouding beast? Ini was still smiling, as if he had no idea how creepy his smile was. Meng Shangyue glanced at him without saying a word. He had no intention of talking to him. Lu Qinyin said with a calm smile, "Fellow cultivators, even though you are all here for different reasons, it's all related to Qin Nan. I've already asked around. The others won't be able to enter the thrones after entering them. Each throne should be a succession and fortunate encounter. I've sensed the power encapsulating the thrones. It's indeed terrifying, but if we work together, we still have a chance to break through the thrones. Fellow cultivators, what do you think?" Xiang Yuanxing flicked his thumb and said, "Sure." Meng Shangyue shrugged in agreement. "Cultivator Zhu, Cultivator Wen, please make your moves first." Lu Qinyin made an inviting gesture. Zhu Yan and Gu Xiaoyao stared at Qin Nan. Their eyes flickered with a complicated look. In the end, they unleashed a brilliant immortal glow. The first flame of the 9 heavens. Spirits of the ancients, Emperor Li is here. The two performed a hand seal. A terrifying flame and an ancient figure sprang at Qin Nan's throne simultaneously. Bang! Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shangyue, and the peerless rulers behind them unleashed their auras simultaneously. Their figures slashed forward like peerless swords. Lu Qinyin performed a hand seal. Wisps of immortal glow descended from the rift and landed on them. Many of the other cultivators were filled with emotions. 5 exceptional geniuses and more than 10 peak peerless rulers were attacking at the same time. How terrifying was their strength? Ini watched with great interest. He suddenly thought of something. He asked the young man leading the group of 3 from the Heaven-Slaying sect, "You're Qiuhong, right? Why aren't you doing anything? Once the Blood Emperor throne is broken, it's going to be troublesome to save Qin Nan." The young man called Qiuhong's eyes were hollow. He did not respond to Ini. He recalled the words that Supreme South World said to him before he left. Chapter 1981. The appearance of the capital of future Qin Nan was totally unaware of what was happening outside. As he stared at the words capital of future, several hand seals gradually appeared in his divine sense. His body began to perform the hand seals too. Half an hour later, he had completed half of the hand seals. Meanwhile, Lu Qinyin, Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shangyue, the exceptional geniuses, and the peerless rulers worked together to strengthen the force protecting the Blood Emperor throne. It turned out to be a thin blood-red glow. The blood-red glow began to tremble as they continued to attack it. Cracks began to surface on it. "It's about to break into pieces." Many cultivators fixed their eyes on the blood-red glow. They had no idea what the other factions were thinking, but everyone knew what the Sherdao tribe and the ancient taboo were up to. Once the blood-red glow broke into pieces, Qin Nan would wake up and fight to the death. Cultivator Zhu, you'll use the first flame to envelop Qin Nan. Cultivator Gu and I will proceed according to our original plan. Lu Qinyin transmitted her thoughts. The 3 of them did not come here to take Qin Nan's life. Since she learned Qin Nan was the successor of the fifth immortal, she strongly believed Qin Nan might have the legendary primary spiritual seal. She had to find out what it was. The Wengu tribe had other thoughts too. The Nongyen tribe was not close to Qin Nan, but they were not mortal enemies. They were only trying to get something out of Qin Nan. Meng Shangyue and Xiang Yuanxing exchanged glances. Everything was as they had expected. The black and red immortals had quietly clasped their hands together. Yi sensed the subtle changes. He glanced at Xiu Hong, who had placed his hand on the hilt of the ancient sword on his waist. The smile on his face widened. The people of the heaven-repelling ancient sect are here too. The show is about to begin. A few thousand breaths later, a huge blast took place. Everyone was startled. The bloody light shattered. Zhu Yan's aura skyrocketed once again. He spat out flames that encapsulated Qin Nan's surroundings. Lu Qinin and Gu Xiaoyao took out an ancient Dao weapon and executed a shocking attack. Lu Qinin, it's not wise for you to stop me. Xiang Yuanxing had expected this. A blinding blue glow burst out from his body, followed by an indescribable murderous aura that swept the surroundings. The unique Sherdao flesh of the Sherdao tribe was activated. Meng Shanyue's aura became extremely sharp too. He and the 9 black-robed cultivators behind him immediately formed a huge formation to resist the attack of the Dao weapon, before attacking Zhu Yan. Yama's tomb. The black and red immortals made their move, and the howls of countless ghosts and gods rang out. A 300-meter-long phantom of a huge tomb appeared in the air, emanating a dense aura of death, as if it wanted to suck everything into the tomb. All forces returned to one. Xiang Yuanxing's purple hair drifted to the wind. The golden dragon halberd in his hand emitted a brilliant golden glow as he broke free from the seal of the tomb and penetrated the flames to arrive in front of Qin Nan at an unbelievable speed. The distance between the two was less than 10 zhang. Die! Xiang Yuanxing let out a roar, as if he had gathered all the forces of the heavens and earth into his halberd. Lu Qinin wore a calm expression. She had already expected the situation to turn out this way, thus she had already prepared a plan that could satisfy both sides. However, before she could do anything, Qin Nan's eyes sprang open. The divine battle spirit and a magnificent illusionary figure appeared simultaneously. They stood firmly between the heavens and earth while unleashing a formidable aura. Xiang Yuanxing shuddered. He took a few steps back under the impact of the aura. Qin Nan rose to his feet. The Blood Emperor throne began to tremble vigorously as if it could not withstand the aura. I didn't expect to see so many familiar faces as soon as I opened my eyes. Qin Nan glanced at Xiang Yuanxing, Lu Qinin, and the others before pausing briefly on Meng Shanyue. His eyes widened when he saw Xiu Hong. His eyes flickered coldly. He could tell that Xiu Hong's soul had been sealed off. The immortal force in his body did not belong to him. Qin Nan, enough with the nonsense. I'm here to kill you to make up for the crime the divine god of battle committed in the past. Xiang Yuanxing said coldly. Qin Nan, I have high hopes for you. Don't let me down. Meng Shanyue became excited. The blood runes on his face emitted an eerie glow as he attacked Qin Nan first. I don't have the time for now, Qin Nan said calmly. He vanished into thin air and reappeared on the supreme blood altar. He cut his finger and dripped 3 drops of blood. What's he doing? Lu Qinin, Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shanyue, the exceptional geniuses, and the peerless rulers were stunned. The cultivators reacted the same way too. Wasn't a great battle going to break out soon? Qin Nan took a deep breath. He performed 3 strange hand seals with his right hand and slammed it on the altar. He groaned, the capital of future, the day of reappearance has arrived. Thud! The supreme blood altar sank more than 80 zhang, as if it had received a heavy blow. Seeing this, Qin Nan's figure swiftly flew down from the ring. An eerie sight took place. The surface of the supreme blood altar that many peerless rulers had failed to inflict any damage on began to crack into pieces. It was moving backward too. An ancient aura was slowly unleashed from it. It was as if a mighty deity had unknowingly opened a taboo door. Is that the eyes of the exceptional geniuses and the rest of the cultivators froze? Bang! In the end, a blood-red glow burst out from deep inside the supreme blood altar like a pillar. It soared into the sky and reached the end of the altar within an instant. An enormous blood-red city appeared at the end of the altar. Its crimson glow dyed the surroundings of Qin Nan and the 9 patterned clouds red. Following this, the blood-red city fully materialized. It unleashed a terrifying aura that swept across the entire 7th sacred area. Bang bang bang! Following a series of explosions, a shocking sight took place. The boundless and boundless 9-mark sea of clouds shattered at this moment, falling apart and falling apart. In addition to it, the gray sky that the cultivators in the 7th sacred area could see crumbling too. Chapter 1982. The Wall of 100 Immortal Beasts. The cultivators in the 7th sacred area were dumbfounded. Even Qin Nan himself was affected to a certain extent. Could that be the Wall of 100 Immortal Beasts? Gu Xiaoyao stared at the enormous wall with a blank face. That doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. According to the 3rd secret manuscript of our tribe, it has already been destroyed. Qin Nan immediately asked upon collecting his thoughts, "What's the Wall of 100 Immortal Beasts?" Gu Xiaoyao subconsciously answered, "It's one of the top 10 Tao-seeking weapons during the era of the 10 Immortals. It was forged by the first immortal using the corpses of 100 immortal beasts." At this point, he came to his senses and didn't say anything else. However, his words had already shocked the cultivators, including Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shanyue, Lu Qinin, Yi, and the rest of the exceptional geniuses. A Tao-seeking weapon. It was an existence that surpassed the primordial Tao weapons. It was extremely rare among the ancient tribes and supreme Taoism factions, and it was extremely rare to find one. Besides, the Tao-seeking weapon was forged by the first immortal himself. It was considered one of the top 10 Tao-seeking weapons. If a Tao-seeking weapon like that appeared anywhere in the 9 heavens immortal realm, many 9 heavens supremes would fight for it. Even the masters of Tao would be interested in it. It would result in a great bloodbath. However, the Tao-seeking weapon it was being used as a wall. Just how terrifying was the capital of future? Who had forged it? What kind of secrets were they hiding? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At that instant, thousands of brilliant immortal rays soared into the sky from the city. Rare phenomena of different colors took place under the blood-red glow, resulting in an eye-catching sight. The vast capital of the future possessed far more than just the wall of 100 demonic immortals. Qin Nan sensed the faint energy coming from deep inside the city. The white flames in his eyes burned vigorously. He executed 2 arts of Tao seeking simultaneously and flew forward at a shocking pace. Chase. Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shanyue, Lu Qinin and her crew, the black and red immortals, and Yi turned into immortal rays and followed behind. All of you, quickly fly to the capital of the future in the sky. In addition, send 2 to 3 people to report everything that has happened here. Tell the clan to send more people over immediately. Almost at the same time, they transmitted the same thought. They had led a group of people to the 7th sacred area to capture and kill Qin Nan. However, they did not have enough heaven-shrouding beasts in the beginning, so most of them had remained under the 9 patterned clouds. Fellow Taoists, although we all have different goals, no matter what, we must first capture Qin Nan and force him to tell us the secret of the capital of world. Otherwise, when we fight, it is very likely that he will take advantage of us. As for how to deal with the secrets after obtaining them, that will depend on our own abilities. If it's possible, let's swear the immortal devil Dao oath together. Lu Qingyin's eyes glittered. She quickly transmitted her thoughts, ignoring Yin Yi and the 3 cultivators of the heaven-slaying sect. Got it. Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shanyue, and the black and red immortals soon agreed. The capital of world was simply too valuable. If they could find the wall of 100 immortal beasts, or some other law-defying fortunate encounters or secrets, the benefits would be unimaginable. Come, let's go and take a look. It's most likely a great opportunity. Many cultivators who had entered the 7th sacred area collected their thoughts too. Their eyes flickered passionately as they turned into rays of light and soared into the sky. For the first time in a few thousand years, the 7th sacred area was in an uproar. Qin Nan soon arrived at the capital of world. The closer he got, the more he could sense how magnificent the city was, especially the wall formed by the wall of 100 immortal beasts. It was constantly emitting a terrifying aura. Without being exaggerating, if a peak heaven immortal had not achieved the Dao realm, they would not be able to get within 10 li of the city. Even if they had achieved the Dao realm, they could only barely stand below the wall. A few hundred breaths later, Qin Nan reached the top of the wall. When his feet landed on the ground, he could hear the roars of a few hundred 9 heavens supreme beasts. Even with his current state of mind, he could not help but be startled. As expected of the Dao-seeking weapon forged by the first immortal, any peak peerless ruler would be able to protect themselves against a 9 heavens supreme in the early stage, even if they could only unleash a little of its power. Qin Nan exclaimed in his heart. He stood on the wall and glanced at the city. Magnificent palaces of various shapes and sizes rose from the ground while emitting immortal glows. In addition to it, there were mountains, forests, rivers, etc. It felt like he had arrived in a small world. Qin Nan had seen many factions before, yet the capital of world was more impressive than most of them. In the end, Qin Nan fixed his gaze on the palace at the center at the end of the city. The palace was over 10,000 zhang tall and had 19 floors. Each floor was covered in talismans of different colors, giving it an ancient aura. It felt as heavy as an immortal mountain. The drop of blood of his past life was on the 19th floor. Qin Nan did not hesitate. He executed the sky-stride blow and headed toward the palace. He completely ignored the palaces that were emitting immortal glows and rare phenomena along the way that might contain shocking successions. Bang bang bang! The palace seemed to have its own consciousness. When Qin Nan was less than 1,000 li away, the talismans on the 19th floor began to fall off, resulting in a series of explosions. A gap over 50 zhang tall and 300 zhang wide appeared. Qin Nan was able to see half of the 19th floor through the gap. It looked like a study with 2 huge, light blue bookshelves on both sides. They were filled with all kinds of ancient books and jade jars that were emitting a faint glow and an ancient aura. Especially at the back of the center, there was a desk, a wooden chair, 3 ancient brushes, an inkstone, and so on. At the center was a scroll of scriptures and a jade brocade box. Qin Nan was startled. Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shanyue, Lu Qingyin, the exceptional geniuses, and some peak peerless rulers were dumbfounded. The presence of the scroll and the jade box was too terrifying. It had already surpassed the level of the 9 heavens supreme realm. Chapter 1983. Let's try again. With a flicker, Qin Nan arrived at the gap and reached out his hand to grab it. Qin Nan, do you still think you can get your hands on the treasure? A thunderous roar exploded. Xiang Yuanxing suddenly vanished into thin air. He swung his hand at Qin Nan like a deity descending from the heavens. Gusts of wind materialized and formed a small tornado that was going to destroy everything. The Sherdao flesh of the Sherdao tribe? Qin Nan turned around. He lifted his gaze and slashed forward with the heaven-shattering saber. Dao-jolting saber art. Meng Shanyue, the black and red immortals, Lu Qinyin, and the peak peerless rulers they had brought went up to Qin Nan and executed their Dao art. The pressure Qin Nan was under increased tremendously. Ordinary exceptional geniuses would not stand a chance against Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shanyue, and the black and red immortals, let alone the peak peerless rulers. Friend Qin Nan, the three of us and the Mumin sect don't want to kill you. We'll stop Xiang Yuanxing and Meng Shanyue for you if you're willing to let us take you down. You should know that they have brought more than 30 peak peerless rulers here just to kill you. They have also prepared a lot of moves. You won't stand a chance against them. Even the heaven-slaying sect won't be able to help you. Lu Qinyin transmitted her voice. Qin Nan moved rapidly. The Tao-melting immortal flames burst out of his body. He merged the will of the two arts of Tao, seeking with the Tao-jolting saber art to fend off the enemy. He glanced at Lu Qinyin. Lu Qinyin had grown prettier since he last saw her 2 months ago. Her stubbornness and smile were enough to topple a kingdom, yet her personality did not change at all. She had been threatening him many times. Piss off. Qin Nan was too lazy to say another word. So what if they had 7 exceptional geniuses and many peerless rulers? He was already prepared to face any calamity after he came back from the secondary lower realm. Lu Qingyin's figure stiffened. This guy was even more outrageous than before. Could it be that he still thought that he could successfully escape under such circumstances? If that's the case, then don't blame us. Lu Qingyin's expression turned cold. She had to subdue Qin Nan at all costs. Boom. They were starting to get serious. Xiang Yuanxing executed the art of Tao, seeking to fully utilize the Shi Dao flesh. Meng Shanyue had formed the immortal slaying curse, which was ranked 3rd among the top 10 ancient curses. The black and red immortals summoned the yin and yang pattern. Lu Qinyin activated the immortal spirit flesh. The word sacred surfaced on her forehead. Gu Xiaoyao's forehead emitted a purple glow. Zhu Yan was engulfed in the first flame. A few other peak peerless rulers floated behind them. They took out ancient Tao weapons and executed Tao arts. Everyone, please show some mercy. Don't kill him. A strange voice could be heard as 5 figures wearing black robes appeared, each holding a cane, a long sword, a pair of hammers, etc., attacking Qin Nan. TSK. The people of the heaven-repelling ancient sect finally made their move. Judging from their auras, they must have sent 2 exceptional geniuses. 9 exceptional geniuses and 12 peak peerless rulers. Even a 9 heavens supreme in the early stage would have to treat them seriously. Yi stood in the distance and said with a smile, "Isn't the heaven-slaying sect going to make your move?" Qiu Hong and the others did not respond, but their bodies tensed. In the nick of time, Qin Nan's blue-red hair drifted in the wind. He summoned the flower of eternity and placed it in the air without any hesitation. Bang! A series of shocking explosions took place as Tao arts and attacks landed on the flower of eternity. The strong gusts of wind expanded the gap by 10 times. However, the flower around the size of a palm was still floating in the air. Every Tao art that came close to it was shattered by an indescribable force. How is this possible? What kind of flower is that? Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shanyue, the black and red immortals, Lu Qinyin, and the rest of the peak peerless rulers were astounded once again. Even though Xiang Yuanxing had seen the flower before, he did not expect it would not budge even after so many of them were attacking it together. More importantly, from the beginning to the end, it had not displayed any overly vast and boundless power. Even if it was the wall of 100 immortal demons, after encountering so many killing techniques, it should have unleashed a shocking aura and phenomenon to annihilate it. Lu Qinyin was the first to react. She quickly executed the sacred spiritual seal to trigger the flower, yet no matter how hard she tried, it would not budge. The flower was not some natural resource that was nurtured by the heavens and earth. So this is what he's relying on. Lu Qingyin murmured. Don't just stand there. I don't believe the flower can withstand the attacks a second time. Meng Shangyue let out a roar. Xiang Yuansheng and the others collected their thoughts and executed their strongest attack. Even though they could go around the flower and focus on Qin Nan, their strength would be greatly spread out. Besides, Qin Nan could withdraw the flower and use it as he pleased. It would be troublesome if they could not overcome the flower. Qin Nan swiftly turned around and glanced at the palace before making his move. Qin Nan, don't you dare! The black and red immortals swiftly went around the white-blue flower and attacked Qin Nan with an illusionary aura. Qin Nan slashed at them with a backhand slash. Meanwhile, Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shangyue, and Lu Qingyin's attacks were blocked by the white-blue flower again. The flower did not budge at all. Fellow cultivators, I wonder how many more attacks the flower can withstand. It's going to be a huge disadvantage for us at this rate. Lu Qingyin's eyes glittered as she came up with a plan. I have an idea, we can try it. We might not be able to harm the flower, but if we, Qin Nan, placed the white-blue flower beside him while she was transmitting her voice, a peerless ruler would not be able to harm him from the outside. Unless the peerless ruler attacked his divine sense and soul with an illusionary aura. However, he was protected by the divine battle spirit. What kind of art could possibly harm him? Qin Nan glanced at the black and red immortals. He did not continue to attack. He grabbed at the books and boxes on the table instead. You won't be getting them. The black and red immortals stood in front of Qin Nan. Qin Nan frowned. He reached out again and claimed the two bookshelves nearby. Nothing was left. Fellow cultivators, let's do as I said and try again. Chapter 1984. One Man and the Emperors. 1. She performed a hand seal. Wisps of the force of the heavens and earth descended and formed a transparent barrier around the flower of eternity, encapsulating it. It was the art of creation of the little heaven and earth. It was able to use the force of the heavens and earth to create a unique space to trap something inside it and move it 10,000 zhang away. However, the art was incomplete during the ancient battle. It could only create a space with a circumference of less than half a zhang. It was very fragile too, thus its rank was lower than ordinary immortal arts. Kill! Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shangyue, the black and red immortals, the exceptional geniuses, and the peerless rulers immediately executed their Dao arts to attack Qin Nan. It's meaningless even if you've isolated it, Qin Nan said calmly. With a thought, the flower of eternity broke through the barrier and returned to him. It immediately nullified the attacks. He went straight to the black and red immortals. As a matter of fact, the box on the table did not contain the first drop of blood he had left in his past life. The drop of blood was among the jade jars on the bookshelves. It was inconspicuous, thus it was difficult for ordinary people to notice it. He had already taken it. However, the scroll and the box were not ordinary. They might have been left behind by his past life. He did not want Lu Qingyin and the others to take them. The black and red immortals tried to stop him, but Qin Nan went up to the table and took the two mysterious artifacts with ease. This, Yi, who was outside, didn't know how to describe his feelings. As the son of a phantom master, he had seen many exceptional geniuses, including the saints of the Mumen sect and the Sherdao tribe. However, he had never seen such an eerie move. How was he going to ambush Qin Nan? How was he going to rob Qin Nan's corpse? Gu Xiaoyao, do it! Lu Qingyin yelled and executed the art of creation of the little heaven and earth to construct a transparent barrier. It encapsulated the flower of eternity and teleported it 10,000 zhang away. Qin Nan immediately had a bad feeling. Just as he was about to activate his divine sense to summon the flower of eternity back, Gu Xiaoyao formed a seal with his hands and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. 36 earthly fiends, great investiture of the gods. A magnificent illusionary figure floated in the air, unleashing an invisible force that swept in all directions. Qin Nan, Yin Yi Chiohong, and the others who had not participated in the battle immediately felt that their soul consciousness and wills were all sealed. Bang bang bang! The ancient Tao weapons that the peerless rulers had summoned fell to the ground after losing their support. Their glow dimmed. Lu Qinin, I've underestimated you. Qin Nan instantly understood, and a strange look flashed through his eyes. Although he disliked this woman, he had to admit that she was extremely smart. She did not execute the art of imprisonment of the little heaven and earth to target Qin Nan. She was only trying to find out the truth. First, the white-blue flower was only able to unleash its terrifying power when it was under attack, or when Qin Nan activated it. Second, Qin Nan was controlling the flower with his divine sense. It would be easy if the two reasons were true. She could teleport the white-blue flower somewhere else and seal off the divine sense of the place, so she could attack Qin Nan's actual body. But, Lu Qinin, how long do you think the illusionary figure can suppress my divine sense for? Qin Nan fully activated the Battle Tao immortal manuscript in his body. It resonated with the divine battle spirit and the Lord of all worlds on his back. His battle intent skyrocketed and reached a magnificent level. The magnificent illusionary figure that was suppressing the divine sense of the place began to tremble vigorously as cracks began to appear on it. Ordinary exceptional geniuses can only suppress their divine sense for at least 50 breaths, but you only have 10 breaths. That being said, 10 breaths is more than enough. Lu Qingyin's hair drifted in the wind. A series of explosions took place as soon as she finished the sentence. Several figures came from the distance with the auras of peak peerless rulers and greater success stage peerless rulers. The peak peerless rulers of the Mumen sect, Ancient Taboo, Sherdao tribe, Heaven-repelling Ancient sect, Tribe of Immortal Spirits, Wengu tribe, and Nongyen tribe had gathered together. Sherdao formation of 3 essences, Sherdao formation of 3 essences. Xiang Yuansheng let out a roar. The peerless rulers of the Sherdao tribe performed hand seals and ignited the Sherdao blood in their bodies. Wisps of energy flowed into Xiang Yuansheng's body. Currently, Xiang Yuansheng had turned himself into a terrifying formation. Wrath of the Forbidden Heavens. The green flames in the eyes of Meng Shangyue and the peerless rulers of the ancient taboo burst out. They performed a hand seal with their left hands, summoning an enormous illusionary skull with sinister fangs. Scriptures of the Great Burial. The black and red immortals and the peerless rulers of the Mumen sect executed one of the 3 arts of Tao seeking of the Mumen sect. Wisps of deathly aura gathered together and drew the outline of an enormous tomb. The tomb was capable of burying the heavens and earth. It was capable of burying everything. Lu Qinin, Gu Xiaoyao, and Zhu Yan made their moves too. The force of the heavens and earth poured down as ancient figures appeared. Terrifying flames took the form of humans. The eyes of Qiu Hong and the others widened. The word / appeared on their palms. They slammed the ground, summoning countless runes. It's none of your business. The people of the heaven-repelling ancient sect made their moves too. They played all kinds of musical instruments and unleashed a formidable aura. They were specifically on guard against the 3 cultivators. Great! Yin Yi was startled. The blood coffin on his back buzzed as if it was going to explode at any second. He did not expect the situation to take such a drastic turn. Qin Nan, you've lost. Lu Qinin had an extraordinary aura. Her eyes were calm like a peerless fairy. Even a 9 heavens supreme in the early stage would not stand a chance against such a deadly situation. Qin Nan had lost the white-blue flower. It did not matter what other trump cards he had up his sleeve. There was no way he could stand a chance. It was the consequence of not agreeing to her request. She had already given him a chance. Is that so? Qin Nan's expression did not change despite facing the overwhelming murderous aura and the overwhelming pressure. The white flames in his eyes grew stronger instead. Bang! The rift shattered. The palace shook vigorously. Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shanyue, the black and red immortals, and Lu Qinin executed their 6 moves simultaneously. They were like 6 peerless dragons that were going to destroy everything in their path with overwhelming power. Chapter 1985. One Man and the Emperors, Part 2, Battle Dao Sky Saber Art. The Dao-melting immortal flames burst out of Qin Nan's body and wrapped around the heaven-shattering saber. He gathered the will of the 2 arts of Dao-seeking and turned them into a saber glow slashing at Zhu Yan. Qin Nan, I knew you were planning to use the power of the flames to break free from Zhu Yan and the others. However, it's meaningless. Lu Qingyin's eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. A tremendous force of the heavens and earth poured down onto the figures of Zhu Yan and the others like a huge river, causing their auras to skyrocket. Burning flame. Zhu Yan wore a determined look. He used a forbidden art to forcibly raise his bloodline to the peak level. The strength of the first flame he summoned instantly multiplied by more than 5 times. Even though it was still incomparable to the Dao-melting immortal flames, it was still able to suppress them. Qin Nan's saber glow was blocked with brute force. The attacks that the exceptional geniuses were executing were about to be destroyed by him too. However, in the nick of time, Qin Nan's aura skyrocketed and reached a magnificent level. One with the tree, destruction of all laws. Qin Nan let out a roar. His figure shifted all of a sudden. He unleashed a terrifying tree from his body and charged at Lu Qinin and the others at a shocking speed. The slash was only a feint. His target was Lu Qinin and the peerless rulers of the tribe of immortal spirits. Is that the eyes of Lu Qinin and the peerless rulers of the tribe of immortal spirits widened as they sensed an overwhelming pressure. However, they did not have the time to do anything, especially since they were still supporting Zhu Yan and Gu Xiaoyao with the power of the heavens and earth. Bang! A shocking explosion took place. Many cultivators that were flying into the capital of future were given a great fright. Following it, the killing formation that Lu Qinin and the peerless rulers of the tribe of immortal spirits set up was shattered into countless light dots. It wasn't just that. The enormous repulsive force was like an enormous mountain from the ancient times as it smashed onto their bodies, causing them to let out a muffled groan in unison as they flew backwards and smashed into the distant palace. Their faces were completely pale while blood flowed out from the corners of their mouth. Qin Nan's figure rose into the sky like a sleeping dragon, breaking free from the deadly traps. How is this possible? Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shanyue, the exceptional geniuses, and the peerless rulers were dumbfounded. Lu Qinin was working with 17 peerless rulers of the heavens and earth. Of the peerless rulers of the heavens and earth, the peerless. How did he manage to break through the peerless 9? Could it be that the tree that was released just now was also a supreme treasure? 7. Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shanyue, and the others immediately collected their thoughts. The formation and rare phenomena they had established in the air unleashed a peerless aura and locked onto Qin Nan once again. Qin Nan, even if you manage to break free from my trap, you won't be able to stop them with your strength. Lu Qinin clutched her chest with a pale face. Lu Qinin, I'm quite impressed that you're able to come this far. Unfortunately, you didn't take one of my moves into consideration. Qin Nan looked at her. His blue-red hair drifted in the wind as he wore a calm smile. His figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. Sky-stride blow. Lu Qinin was startled upon seeing this. She had fought Qin Nan before, thus she knew how powerful the move was. She had tried her best to overcome it too, but she ended up neglecting it as she was busy dealing with the white-blue flower. Crap! Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shanyue, the Black and Red Immortals, and the rest of the exceptional geniuses were startled too. They immediately activated their eye techniques and scanned the area ahead. When they saw Qin Nan's figure approaching them, they immediately switched targets and executed their attack. Bang bang bang! Terrifying gusts of wind surged in all directions. Some of the cultivators who were not too far away were all trembling in fear. Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shangyue, the Black and Red Immortals, the exceptional geniuses, and the peerless rulers soon saw Qin Nan standing calmly amid the gusts of wind. In front of him, there was a flower the size of a palm, unmoving for all eternity. Not only did the sky-stride blow allow Qin Nan to teleport to the next location instantly to avoid the danger, it also allowed Qin Nan to arrive close to the white-blue flower, allowing him to break free from the art of creating a small world to retrieve it. Bang! It was also at this moment that the majestic figure that Gu Xiaoyao had summoned was shattered into pieces. Gu Xiaoyao's face paled slightly. He had paid a great price just to suppress the divine sense of so many exceptional geniuses and peak peerless rulers at once. Damn it! Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shangyue, the Black and Red Immortals, and the others wore dark expressions. Lu Qinin bit her lips. Even Yin Yi, who was not involved in the battle, could not help but curse. The opportunity just now was truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They had failed to defeat Qin Nan. They would have to pay a great price if they wanted to take on Qin Nan again. Qin Nan. Lu Qinin took a deep breath to calm her thoughts and said, "I'm surprised that I didn't defeat you this time, but you are destined to lose today." Qin Nan wore a calm smile. He pointed his saber at the formidable formation and said with a strong battle intent, "Bring it on then." Even though he had successfully claimed the first drop of blood, he had no intention of leaving right away. There were too many secrets hidden in the capital of future. He had to take the opportunity to learn them all. At the same time, the Wall of 100 Immortal Beasts was closely related to his past life. He was going to claim them all. It was only the first battle. Enough. Don't you think you've caused enough trouble? Get the hell out of the 7th sacred area at once. At that instant, an unpleasant voice echoed in Qin Nan's mind. Qin Nan was startled. Who was transmitting their voice to him? "It doesn't matter who I am, you've already claimed the drop of blood. There's no need for you to stay any longer. Someone will come and claim everything that's important to the capital of future. It has nothing to do with you." The displeased voice continued, "It's meaningless for you to stay any longer." Before Qin Nan could say a word, runes spread under his feet. Following it, a formidable force forcibly teleported him away from the place. Lu Qinin, Xiang Yuanxing, Meng Shangyue, the exceptional geniuses, and the peerless rulers were stunned. They had no idea how to describe their feelings. Didn't he say, "Bring it on"? Wasn't he supposed to keep fighting? Chapter 1986. The Secret of the Seal of the Divine God of Battle. Some time later, at the edge of the 7th sacred area, Qin Nan's figure appeared from the formation. He scanned his surroundings and saw thousands of blue stone doors of various sizes floating in the blood-red sky. The doors were emitting various glows. It was the exit of the 7th sacred area. Any of the gates would lead him to the supreme transforming left realm, but he had no idea where he would end up. "Senior? Who are you? Why do you say it's meaningless to stay here? Who's going to take the things in the capital of future?" Qin Nan asked after looking around him. "I'm the ruler of the 7th sacred area. As for your other questions, I'm in a bad mood, so I don't want to answer them. You just need to leave at once," the overseer said in annoyance. As the ruler of the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth, he was not supposed to be involved in the matters of the 9 heavens immortal realm. However, he owed Qin Nan's past life a favor, thus he had no choice but to make an exception and allow Qin Nan to leave a drop of his blood behind. On top of that, he even built the capital of future. Now that the capital of future had shown up, the seventh sacred area was in a mess. It would most likely take it a month to fix it. Could no longer go out and have fun. How could it not feel troubled? Qin Nan twisted his lips. He had no other choice but to leave now? Qin Nan, it's the right decision to leave now. The ancient taboo, the Mumin sect, the Sherdao tribe, and the other factions have learned about the capital of future's appearance. More experts are going to show up. It's not going to be good for you if you stay any longer. Empress Feiyue's emotionless voice appeared. Besides, I've just received news that the deepest part of the first sacred area has undergone a great change after you took the drop of blood. Qin Nan's eyes glittered. In other words, the thing that the pattern spirit had asked him to retrieve at all costs was about to show up. However, it's going to take a long time for it to show itself. We still have some time. Empress Feiyue said, I suggest you take a look at the things you brought out and the drop of blood before you leave the seventh sacred area. After all, these things aren't ordinary at all. If they were taken out in the first sacred area or the outside world, it might trigger some kind of rare phenomenon. Qin Nan nodded. Indeed, according to Tu Ling's original intention, this drop of blood was to be used to extract that thing, not for him to refine. However, it was also good to feel its aura. Maybe he would gain something. With a thought, Qin Nan took out the countless ancient books, the jade bottles, the scroll, and the brocade box. Qin Nan picked up an ancient book and flipped it open. However, it was completely blank and there was nothing on it. Qin Nan frowned slightly and continued to pick up the next book. In the end, the corners of his mouth twitched again. All of the ancient books were blank. They were merely decorations. Could it be that apart from the drop of blood, the rest of the things that my past life left behind are just decorations? Qin Nan murmured. He picked up the scroll with an extraordinary aura and opened it. This time, it was not empty. It was full of ancient words. However, when Qin Nan took a closer look, the words became blurry. An ethereal voice rang in his mind. Master, I believe you are at least a peerless ruler by the time you hear this. You have barely gained a foothold in the 9 heavens immortal realm. However, as your cultivation continues to improve, the things that you will face will surpass those of ordinary people. Therefore, there's something I can tell you. Brother Xiang has left a seal of the divine god of battle in your body. It can only be used once. You shouldn't use it unless you have no other choice. As a matter of fact, if you activate the seal, I will show up in the 9 heavens to resolve the danger for you. Remember, when I show up to help you, your true identity will be exposed to the world. It will bring you endless trouble. My cultivation isn't as strong as it used to be. I can only help you eliminate the masters of Tao. Qin Nan's heart shuddered. All this time, he had thought that the god of war had left behind some kind of power to protect his growth. He never thought that it was someone else. Besides, his cultivation was not as strong as it used to be. He could only eliminate the masters of Tao? If this mysterious subordinate of his in his previous life was at the peak of his cultivation, how terrifying would that be? Someone like that. Yet, he called him master and waited for him to protect him. Qin Nan, what's wrong? Empress Feiyue asked. Qin Nan took a deep breath to calm his thoughts and told her the truth. Empress Feiyue fell silent for some time before she said, let's take a look at the box. Qin Nan put the scroll away and opened the box. A pitch-black pill around the size of half a palm lay inside. It was not emitting any aura. Qin Nan could not see anything even with his immortal eyes of the divine god of battle. Qin Nan asked Empress Feiyue about it, but she had no idea either. Qin Nan had no choice but to put it away for the time being. This must be the drop of blood. Qin Nan picked up a bottle with the weakest aura among the jars. The mouth of the bottle was sealed with a purple-golden cork, which was covered with countless ancient runes. I wonder if I can open it. With this thought, Qin Nan tried to pull it out with his hand. Meanwhile, deep inside a mysterious place in the seventh sacred area, an old man with a white beard was sitting in front of a faint blood-red lake with a radius of less than 5 zhang. His hands were emitting a chaotic glow as he patted the surface of the lake. The blood-red glow on the lake would dim slightly every time he patted it. He was the ruler of the sacred area. He was repairing the rules that had been broken after the capital of future showed up. However, his current expression was no longer gloomy. In fact, he even snorted from time to time. When he thought about it, he was always bullied by the guy in the past. He did not even dare to speak loudly. However, he had turned the tables around. He even scolded the guy a few times. "I'm such an idiot, why did I chase him away in such a hurry? I should have dragged him here and scolded him for 3 days and 3 nights. TSK, it feels great just thinking about it." He imagined such a scene, and a bright smile appeared on his face. However, the smile froze on his face not long after. A magnificent blood-red glow soared into the sky from the lake. A terrifying aura surged in all directions. The water of the lake began to boil. A series of explosions took place continuously in the air. Chapter 1987. A single drop of blood shook the heavens and earth. Meanwhile, at the edge of the seventh sacred area, Qin Nan did not expect such a terrifying sight to take place when he removed the cork. One could see a frightening blood light that was so vast that it was difficult to describe, instantly charged to the end of the sky. It caused everything within one's sight to turn into a blood-colored primal chaos that continued to churn like an endless sea of blood. The vast and boundless land began to tremble violently, and huge cracks began to appear on it. Strong storms appeared out of nowhere like ancient ferocious beasts that were unleashed. They roared and swept across the place in a terrifying manner. What's going on? What's happening now? Is the seventh sacred area going to be destroyed? The peerless rulers and heaven immortals in the capital of future were dumbfounded when they saw the scene around them. Even Lu Qinyin, Xiang Yuanxing, and the exceptional geniuses were dumbfounded. The appearance of the capital of future had caused all kinds of abnormal phenomena, which was already very frightening. However, what was happening now was many times more frightening than before. It was as if an apocalyptic catastrophe was about to happen once in 10,000 years. Then, they discovered an even more frightening scene. None of this had weakened in the slightest. Instead, as time passed, it became stronger and stronger. Even with Qin Nan's current state of mind, it took him quite some time to collect his thoughts. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. He quickly picked up the cork and was about to remove the blood. As the copper mirror mentioned, if he had opened the blood in the first sacred area or the supreme transforming left realm, it would surely stir a great chaos and attract many people to him. At that instant, an extremely familiar aura surged into his body like a vast river, causing his movements to stiffen. Following this, the purple fragment in his divine sense began to emit rays of light, as a stream of pure energy entered his body. The immortal force of the Tao-melting immortal flames grew rapidly. His aura skyrocketed too. Is it about to have a breakthrough? Qin Nan's mind was slightly shaken. He only hesitated for a moment before quickly restraining his mind. It would take a lot of time and resources to improve the Peerless Ruler realm from the greater success stage to the peak Peerless Ruler realm. He could not afford to waste the opportunity. For a moment, he completely forgot himself as he tried to break through with all his might. "You little bastard, you actually opened the cork here." The white-bearded old man looked over and let out a roar. When he saw Qin Nan's current appearance, he became even more furious. "Fuck! You little bastard, not only did you not shut it off, you actually broke through here. Wake up now." It had to be known that in such a short period of time, he would have to spend an entire year if he could settle everything in a month. How can he remain calm? Therefore, He directly wanted to interrupt Qin Nan. However, his expression quickly froze again. Normally, when he roared like this, everyone would definitely wake up, unable to continue cultivating and breaking through. However, Qin Nan's breakthrough was different from usual. Qin Nan was shrouded by the aura of the drop of blood. He could not transmit his divine sense into it. Most importantly, if he forcibly attacked and summoned some lightning to attack Qin Nan to wake him up, he would be going against the drop of blood. That little bastard, the white-bearded old man, clenched his teeth and decisively revealed his true form. No matter how furious he was, he had no choice but to close the cork as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would have to spend a few years trying to fix the rules. He soon froze in place. The cork was sealed with a special seal. He could not lift it at all. Time gradually passed. Some time later, Qin Nan's aura finally broke through the shackles and reached a whole new level. He was now a peak peerless ruler. To Qin Nan's surprise, apart from the roots, the trunk and branches of his tree of Tao had completely transformed into 9 different colors. The same went for the Tao glow. Only the leaves were still the will of the arts of Tao seeking. Even though he had yet to achieve the perfect stage of the Tao realm, his Tao glow had improved significantly. It was a lot stronger than before. I didn't think the presence of the drop of blood left by my past life would be so helpful to me. Qin Nan murmured in his heart. As his eyes sprang open, he immediately saw an old man with a face full of wrinkles and white hair staring at him. The old man was so close to him that Qin Nan was given a great scare, causing him to take a few steps back. "You're finally done. I was wrong, I shouldn't have scolded you. Please close the cork at once." The white-bearded old man blurted out. "Ugh, all right." Qin Nan was startled. He quickly closed the cork and put it back into his storage bag. The terrifying rare phenomenon immediately vanished. Even though the place was still shaking vigorously, Qin Nan could tell that it was a lot weaker than before. "Senior, I'm so sorry, I just wanted to feel the drop of blood from my past life. I didn't expect it to turn out like this," Qin Nan said apologetically while looking at the surroundings. As for the white-bearded old man, he could easily tell that he was the ruler of the Tao realm. Hee. The white-bearded old man let out a relieved sigh. He forced a smile and said, "It's fine, it's nothing serious. I'll be fine soon." He finally realized that even though Qin Nan had reincarnated and was only a peerless ruler, he was still the bane of his existence. "Are you leaving? The exits have been destroyed. I'll make one for you right away," the white-bearded old man blurted out. He proceeded to cast a spell. Qin Nan felt even more ashamed. "Senior, if there's anything you can do to fix the situation, you can tell me. I can still stay here for a while." The white-bearded old man was startled. He said, "That won't be necessary, I'll do it myself." He almost chased Qin Nan into the stone door and vanished into thin air. The white-bearded old man let out a relieved sigh. He had finally sent this plague away. However, the white-bearded old man stood in place for a moment. His eyes flickered as he murmured, "Compared to the other 3, I'm more hoping that you can find that thing. Let's hope you'll succeed." Chapter 1988. Chigu the Supreme Transforming Left Realm. In a mountain range, Qin Nan appeared. He soon noticed the badges in his storage bag glowing. He immediately inspected them with his divine sense. "Qin Nan, what's going on with the capital of future in the 7th sacred area? Qin Nan, give me a reply at once. You little prick, I'm going to teach you a lesson when I go to the first immortal realm." The voice came from Supreme Chang Shao. "Qin Nan, did the 7th sacred area show up with some kind of artifact? Why aren't you talking? Are you in danger? Don't worry, I'm here to help you." The voice came from the 8 Brilliance Demon Emperor. "Qin Nan, you're being flanked by the exceptional geniuses. How can I just sit back and watch as your friend, who has gone through thick and thin with you. I'm coming now. The voice came from Yuanji. Qin Nan's lips twisted. He replied to Supreme Chang Shao with his divine sense. The latter immediately replied with a furious voice, "If you don't reply soon, I'm going to come right away. I won't waste my time with you. I have a question, what's the capital of future? Why did Chigu appear and fly into the first sacred area after it appeared? Is something going to happen in the first sacred area?" Qin Nan was startled. He asked, "What's Chigu?" Supreme Chang Shao said disdainfully, "You don't even know what Chigu is? The halberd of Chigu is one of the 10 great Tao-seeking weapons, just like the Wall of 100 immortal beasts. It's the weapon of the 5th immortal, the divine god of battle." Qin Nan's eyes glittered. If the weapon of the divine god of battle had flown into the first sacred area, it meant that the rare phenomena in the first sacred area were about to take place. Patriarch, the capital of future is indeed related to the rare phenomena in the first sacred area. I'm planning to go there too, but I don't know much about it. However, outsiders won't be able to take the artifacts in the capital of future, so the Sky Taihuang sect should give up on it. Qin Nan thought for a moment and transmitted his divine will. Some time later, Supreme Chang Shao finally replied, "If that's the case, we won't be sending anyone. You brat, be careful when the time comes." Qin Nan smiled. He immediately transmitted his thoughts to the 8 Brilliance Demon Emperor and Yuanji, telling them that he had already entered the first sacred area. They did not have to lend him a hand. "Let's head to the first sacred area now." Qin Nan calmed his mind and flew into the void. Meanwhile, the news of the Chigu halberd flying into the first sacred area spread like wildfire after Qin Nan triggered the unexpected change in the 7th sacred area, the mysterious capital of future, and Qin Nan's disappearance. The Sherdao tribe, Mumin sect, and the rest of the factions were startled. The Chigu halberd has already entered the first sacred area, not long after the capital of future showed up. There's no way it's a coincidence. Qin Nan must be heading to the first sacred area too. Spread the word, send someone to inform the saints at once. We must take down Qin Nan at all costs and dig out all his secrets. He's going to enter the first sacred area? Very well. We'll ask Xiang Tianqi to nail him to death in there. The factions began to make their moves. In addition to it, the eyes of many exceptional geniuses of other factions flickered sharply. Jiang Yanai, in particular, stood on a lone peak with a sharp gaze. His aura soared into the sky. "Qin Nan, this must be our destiny. I've already told my masters to prepare to enter the first sacred area. I didn't expect you to go there so soon." "That's fine too. We'll decide who's the winner of the 9 Heavens Supreme Realm now." A strong gust of wind blew. Jiang and I turned into a sword glow and disappeared into the distance. Not long after, Lu Qingyin, Xiang Yuanxing, and the rest of the exceptional geniuses realized that not only were they unable to claim the treasures in the capital of future, they were also being hunted down. They had no choice but to withdraw as they could not find Qin Nan. Qin Nan has a flower that can resist the attacks of all peerless rulers. Lu Qingyin decided to tell the world after a slight hesitation. She was extremely unwilling to accept her loss. She was only doing it to bring some trouble to Qin Nan. How ridiculous! How can there be such a magical flower in this world? Even the 10 trees, 6 grasses, and 3 flowers of the undying cycle mountain don't possess such power. It's only because your cultivation is too weak that you can't break the flower. Some forces and some experts revealed a trace of disdain in their eyes when they heard these words. After all, according to Lu Qingyin, apart from sealing off Qin Nan's divine sense, wouldn't it make Qin Nan unbeatable among the peerless rulers? Meanwhile, the heaven-repelling ancient sect, one of the 14 supreme Taoism factions in the 9 Heavens immortal realm, a while ago, the heaven-slaying ancient sect's previous patriarch, a master of Tao, was killed by the heaven-slaying ancient sect. It was a great blow to the heaven-slaying ancient sect. As a result, the atmosphere among the elders and above had been tense lately. However, on this day, a burst of laughter echoed in all directions. Ha ha ha, the heavens are helping me, the heavens are helping me. Lu Gufeng of the reincarnation sect has just entered the first sacred area a few days ago. Meng Jiogong of the Nine Palace Golden Immortal sect is at the entrance of the first sacred area. Qin Nan is going there too. I just need to take down Meng Jiogong and Lu Gufeng to claim Qin Nan's blood essence. My plan will succeed. The person who burst out laughing was the patriarch of the heaven-repelling ancient sect. He was sitting in the spacious patriarch hall in a blood-red robe. His aura was deep like an abyss. His eyes had 7 different glows flickering in them. Congratulations, patriarch, an old man beside him said respectfully. Let's talk about something else. The patriarch of the heaven-repelling ancient sect waved his hand and said, How are Feng Wuheng, Xian'er and Zhang Linshan? They were the core disciples of the heaven-repelling ancient sect, especially Feng Wuheng, who was the strongest core disciple of the heaven-repelling ancient sect. He was quite reputable in the supreme transforming realms. The old man immediately said, I've imprisoned them in the 10,000 Bloodthirst Valley according to your orders. Their minds should be cleansed by now. Very well. Bring them here. I've trained them for over 100 years. It's time for them to repay me. The patriarch of the heaven-repelling ancient sect said sinisterly. Meanwhile, one of the 14 supreme Taoism factions, the heaven-slaying ancient sect, the beast-hide drawing sat on the icy throne and tapped the armrest rhythmically. Didn't Big Brother hate Qin Nan's past life as much as he did? Why was he helping him now? What did Big Brother give Qin Nan? Would he still help him in the future? Chapter 1989. The Two Saints. Meanwhile, a mysterious place in the void heaven realm of the first immortal realm, in a vast and boundless river, the skeletons gradually calmed down along with the terrifying aura and stopped trembling. Lately, the ancient taboo had been losing its temper more often than not. That's fine too, since Qin Nan has gone to the first sacred area, I don't have to lure him there anymore. The ancient taboo said coldly, Meng Shangyue, you and the other 4 saints will lead the people to the first sacred area at once. Stick to the plan. Meng Shangyue immediately dropped to his knee and nodded. On top of that, once Qin Nan enters the first sacred area, around 3 days later, we'll release the thing so the other exceptional geniuses can enter it too. The ancient taboo said. It had been planning to eliminate Qin Nan and the exceptional geniuses that were not supposed to exist in this world. Meanwhile, Qin Nan, who had triggered a series of storms, had arrived close to the entrance of the first sacred area after flying for some time. More than 30 ancient cities of various sizes were floating above the vast ocean. Every city was filled with immortal light that shot into the sky. Cultivators were flying in and out continuously. Even though they were very far away, they could still hear a lot of voices. It was enough to show how lively it was. Immortal eyes of the divine god of battle activate. Qin Nan withdrew his aura. His eyes were engulfed in white flames. His outstanding eye technique ignored the formations around the ancient city, allowing him to observe the situation in the city. The streets were filled with all kinds of vendors. Most of them were selling sacred medicines and ancient talismans. After all, the first sacred area was different from the other sacred areas. It was also known as the Dead Zone. Once a cultivator entered the first sacred area, they would never be able to leave it if they did not find the fortunate encounter of the 9 heavens supreme realm. Over the past few thousand years, many reputable peerless geniuses had gone inside and never came out again. No one knew if they were dead or alive. As such, many cultivators would try their best to buy a lot of pills and talismans before entering the first sacred area, just in case they needed them. There are quite a few peerless rulers from various factions here, Qin Nan said to himself as his gaze swept across the various cities. That's... All of a sudden, Qin Nan noticed that the cultivators on the streets of the largest city seemed to have received some news and were rushing toward the city. Qin Nan shifted his gaze. An enormous crystal was erected on a dojo in the city. The disciples of the Nine Palace Golden Immortal sect were standing on both sides, including Meng Jiugong, who possessed the flesh of good luck. Although Qin Nan couldn't hear what they were talking about, looking at this posture, he could guess that they must have opened some big gambling house. Isn't that my name? Qin Nan, the successor of the fifth immortal, was about to enter the first sacred area. The odds of obtaining the opportunity to become a Nine Heavens Supreme within 10 days were 10 times. Obtain it within 30 days. Qin Nan's lips twisted when he saw the eye-catching words at the top of the crystal. However, it seemed like the gambling house was for the cultivators to place bets on how long the exceptional geniuses who entered the death zone would be able to obtain the fortunate encounters. Let's see who has entered the death zone. Having this thought, Qin Nan shifted his gaze downward. The 307th saint of the Mumen sect, nameless Nye, one of the 10 exceptional geniuses, a peak peerless ruler, has been in the first sacred area for 2 months. The odds of placing a bet within a month were as follows. The 325th saint of the Sherdao tribe, Xiang Tianqi, one of the 10 exceptional geniuses, a peak peerless ruler, has been in the first sacred area for 3 months. The odds of placing a bet, Qin Nan squinted. In these two factions, being called a saint meant that they were the strongest exceptional geniuses of their generation in their respective factions. They were similar to the number 1 exceptional geniuses of the supreme Taoism orthodoxies. Qin Nan continued to look around and saw 2 familiar faces. The strongest exceptional genius of the reincarnation sect, Lu Gufeng, had been in the first sacred area for 15 days. Jiang Yan'ai of the Extreme Living Gate was about to enter it. The rest were the exceptional geniuses of other factions and rogue cultivators. There were more than 30 of them. Most of the exceptional geniuses have come to the first sacred area indeed. A hint of battle intent flickered in Qin Nan's eyes. Following this, his aura burst out as he turned into a blinding blue ray flying toward the 1,000 tall door in the distance. The door frame was carved with countless demons and deities. Who's there? It's Qin Nan. Qin Nan is here. The powerful aura immediately startled many peerless rulers in the cities. They immediately noticed Qin Nan. What? Qin Nan is here? The cultivators in the ancient cities raised their heads upon hearing the words. Meng Jiugong, who was initially bored, straightened his figure. The guy was finally here. Qin Nan, you won't be able to enter it. Die. In less than a breath's time, 10 peak peerless rulers collected their thoughts. They unleashed their immortal force as they executed a series of Tao arts and ancient Tao weapons. Qin Nan did not slow down. He waved his right hand and slashed forward with a brilliant saber intent. Bang bang bang. The Tao arts were nullified while the Tao weapons were knocked back. Qin Nan had comprehended something at the Supreme Blood Altar. He had also absorbed the presence of a drop of blood from his past life, allowing him to achieve the peak peerless ruler realm. His strength had significantly improved. Qin Nan, hold it right there, the duel between us, Meng Jiugong yelled and charged at Qin Nan. His cultivation had reached the peak heaven immortal realm in just a few months. It was a remarkable improvement. I'll have a duel with you when I'm back. Qin Nan felt a headache. Why did the guy have to target him? Screw you. Meng Jiugong clenched his teeth. It had been a few months since the 6 Unity Forbidden Land. If he could not catch Qin Nan this time, how long would he have to wait until the next time? Alright, then take one of my moves. Qin Nan wore a helpless look. He was about to unleash a saber intent. However, at this moment, his eyes suddenly became incomparably sharp. Bang! A shocking explosion took place in the distance as a terrifying immortal glow soared into the sky. A tremendous pressure swept across the place like a storm. The hearts of the cultivators in the city shuddered. Chapter 1990. Chapter 200. The First Sacred Area of the Heavens and Earth. Supreme Xiang Ming of the Sherdao tribe. Xiang Ming? The same Xiang Ming who came out from the death zone 10 days ago? The peerless rulers of other factions soon recognized the Nine Heavens Supreme. Qin Nan, you are a sinner. You must die. Supreme Xiang Ming snapped thunderously. His robe drifted wildly in the wind. He pointed his finger forward and unleashed a formidable supreme force to seal off the rift around Qin Nan. He activated his Sherdao flesh and unleashed a strong murderous aura. It dyed the area around him blood-red. Whoosh! He made his move. Over 10,000 giant swords with terrifying auras were summoned from the rift, turning into a torrent of swords that surged forward. The peerless rulers and heaven immortals in the cities felt their scalps turning numb. They felt a great chill running down their spines. Holy crap! Meng Jiugong's face turned pale. His flesh of good luck seemed to have lost its effect. He happened to be sealed in the rift too. He was right behind Qin Nan. The swords would kill him before they reached Qin Nan. Qin Nan was indeed his nemesis. Come here. Qin Nan grabbed Meng Jiugong and pulled him to his back. He executed two arts of Dao seeking simultaneously. The magnificent illusionary figure of the divine battle spirit appeared too. Sky Battle Dao Saber Art. Qin Nan swung his saber again. The saber intense surged across the sky. Bang bang bang! The enormous swords shattered into pieces and vanished into thin air. Is Qin Nan really that strong? The peerless rulers and cultivators in the cities were astounded. They soon realized they were wrong. Supreme Xiang Ming had already shown up 100 zhang away from Qin Nan. He was already performing a hand seal. That attack just now was just a feint. The fifth immortal is nothing much. It's over. Supreme Xiang Ming said coldly as he pushed his hands forward. An enormous illusionary figure of a three-legged golden crow appeared between the heavens and earth. It let out a roar and charged at Qin Nan and Meng Jiugong with the power of the heavens and earth. The Tree of Dao. Qin Nan had expected this. He remained as still as a mountain. A huge tree soared into the sky. Boom! The three-legged golden crow turned into a vast golden flame spreading in all directions, illuminating the whole place with a golden glow. It was a great contrast to the blood-red glow of Supreme Xiang Ming. Dead? The peerless rulers in the city stared at the scene with blank faces. Supreme Xiang Ming frowned slightly. Then, he sensed something and his eyes widened slightly. So that's all there is to a Nine Heavens Supreme. Until next time. A calm voice echoed between the heavens and earth. Qin Nan grabbed Meng Jiugong and flew out of the sea of flames. He executed the sky-stride blow and disappeared into the gate without giving Supreme Xiang Ming any time to react. Supreme Xiang Ming's expression immediately darkened. He had failed to kill Qin Nan at such a close distance. He did not even leave a single scratch on him. It was such a humiliation. After a moment of silence, the cities below suddenly burst into an uproar. 100 breaths later, the first sacred area of the heavens and earth. Qin Nan and Meng Jiugong appeared at the same time and landed on a lake, startling the beasts nearby. Qin Nan immediately looked around him. The sky and the ground were perfectly normal. It was no different from the outside world, but the rift was filled with a strong immortal intent. Even the supreme transforming left realm was incomparable to it. Qin Nan, why does your tree, why does it have the presence of the art of Dao seeking of the superfluous lifeless sect and the ancient Bodhi temple? Meng Jiugong fixed his eyes on Qin Nan. You're right, I've secretly learned their art of Dao seeking. Qin Nan did not hide the truth. Even if he did not expose it now, He would eventually learn about it as he continued to achieve the Nine Heavens' supreme realm in the upcoming battles. Since he had already entered the death zone, it did not matter if he was exposed. Impressive. I didn't think you would be able to get your hands on their art of Tao seeking too, Meng Jiugong exclaimed. He said excitedly, "Do you want the Nine Palace Golden Immortal Sect's art of Tao seeking? I'll give it to you." Qin Nan was left speechless. Meng Jiugong was the young master of the Nine Heavens' supreme patriarch, yet he was willing to give away the art of Tao seeking so easily? It's fine, it's meaningless to cultivate it now. Qin Nan snapped as a thought crossed his mind. On the other hand, why are you staring at me? Look at you now, you're only a heaven immortal, yet you've already entered the death zone. God knows when you'll be able to leave it. To his surprise, Meng Jiugong did not seem to be bothered at all. He said indifferently, "What's the big deal? Many Earth immortals have already entered the death zone to hide from their enemies. The first sacred area has already developed to the size of a small immortal realm. It doesn't lack anything." Qin Nan agreed too. He waved his hand and said, "I have something else to attend to. Let's part ways here. I'll have a duel with you next time." "Wait." Meng Jiugong immediately stopped him and said, "Our Nine Palace Golden Immortal Sect has a lot of information. I'm familiar with the first sacred area too. We can work together. Besides, even though my cultivation isn't strong, my flesh of good luck can still help you in times of need." Qin Nan nodded slightly, but he was not in a rush to accept the offer. "Why are you following me?" Meng Jiugong shrugged. "Everything has been going smoothly ever since my flesh of flesh was awakened. However, my flesh of good luck is somehow restricted when I'm with you. It's completely useless. Perhaps it's the opportunity to perfect my flesh of good luck." Meng Jiugong's eyes glittered. He was eager to try. "All right, let's swear an immortal demon oath." Qin Nan nodded in agreement. Meng Jiugong did not hesitate to accept the offer. "Qin Nan, Chigu's halberd flew in here. Are you going to look for it?" Meng Jiugong asked immediately. "That's right, I'm going deeper into the first sacred area," Meng Jiugong said after a slight ponder. "From what I know, the deepest part of the first sacred area is separated by a forbidding formation called the Immortal Slaying River. No one is allowed to enter it until a certain date regardless of how strong their cultivation is. We'll head to the Land of Deer to learn more about the place. By the way, you might not know this, but the Land of Deer is a unique land of treasure close to the inner region. An immortal deer will appear every 10 years. Anyone who manages to ride one will have a 50% chance of obtaining the Nine Heavens' supreme fortunate encounter." The two of them started to move as they talked. Teaming up with Meng Jiugong had indeed saved Qin Nan a lot of trouble. He was able to learn a lot of things without spending too much effort investigating them. Time gradually passed. In the outside world, Jiang and I entered the first sacred area on his own, followed by the cultivators of various factions. Chapter 1991. The Land of the Deer. 2 days were gone fairly quickly. Qin Nan and Meng Jiugong did not stumble into any traps or forbidding auras along the way, but they did encounter a lot of cultivators who tried to rob them. As Meng Jiugong mentioned, the first sacred area of the heavens and earth was no different than some of the small immortal realms, but the resources here were a lot more scarce. After all, the cultivators that could enter the first sacred area of the heavens and earth were only peak peerless rulers at most. As a result, most of the forbidden places were not accessible. The two finally arrived at the Land of the Deer. Qin Nan floated in the air and looked into the distance. Not far in front of them was an incomparably vast plain, with no end in sight. The ground was covered in countless crystalline immortal herbs that were around half a zhang tall. When a strong wind blew, the immortal herbs would dance in the wind like an ocean. It was quite a spectacular sight. Qin Nan used the immortal eyes of the divine god of battle and noticed that each of the immortal herbs was extraordinary. They were somehow connected to the sky above the valley. Ordinary cultivators would struggle to uproot them. On top of it, there was a mystical force deep inside the sky too. It was like an upside-down abyss. Even with Qin Nan's current cultivation, he could easily be dragged away by it if he stared at it. From what I know, the mysterious immortal deers came from above. They will stay in the valley for an hour to feed. During this period, cultivators are allowed to ride on them. However, normally, the first sacred area of the heavens and earth will be bustling with activity when the immortal deers show up. More than 90% of the cultivators in the peerless ruler realm will take part in it. Meng Jiugong said. Qin Nan nodded. He continued to fly forward. Some time later, a towering immortal mountain looming over the sky like a pillar supporting the heavens and earth appeared in their vision. However, the surface of the mountain had several holes that were modified into dojos, walls, entrances, etc. Cultivators were constantly entering and leaving the place. The Supreme Mountain has been here since the first sacred area of the heavens and earth appeared. Right now, at least 30% of the cultivators in this area are gathered here. Countless forces have been born in this place. Now, it seems like Rogue Immortal Hall and Sky Heart Pavilion are the main forces. Meng Jiugong said after a slight ponder. Interesting. The corners of Qin Nan's mouth lifted slightly. By the way, Qin Nan, you should wear this mask. It can guarantee that after you change your appearance, no one will recognize you for a day. Meng Jiugong lowered his voice and said, I don't mean to say, but the Sherdao tribe, ancient taboo, Mumin sect, and other formidable factions must have sent someone here to inform the two factions. They will also ask their disciples and experts to deal with you here. Indeed. Qin Nan nodded and put on his mask, saying, Let's go and gather some information. The two of them randomly found an entrance and entered Mount Supreme. Everything in the mountain was no different from those in the cities. It was just that when one raised their heads, they would only be able to see a mountain wall that resembled a starry sky. On both sides of the street, there were stone halls of various sizes, as well as street vendors. Ultimate Dao Arts, don't miss out on this opportunity. Ultimate Dao Arts, once you learn them, you will surely become a monster and alter your destiny. The street vendors were yelling loudly. Most of them were selling Dao arts and martial arts. Qin Nan was intrigued. He slowed down his pace and scanned the street vendors. Qin Nan, someone is selling information over there. A while later, Meng Jiugong transmitted his voice to Qin Nan. Qin Nan looked up and saw a skinny old man sitting with his legs crossed with his eyes closed. In front of him was a white cloth with the words by Shaoxing written on it. The skinny old man seemed to be aware of Qin Nan's presence. He opened his eyes and said calmly, What do you want to know? I know everything that happened in the first sacred area. Qin Nan asked after a slight ponder, What happened after the halberd of Dao flew in? The skinny old man's eyes flickered. He said, You're the 39th person to ask about it. Here's a half-immortal blessing sacred healing pill. Qin Nan obviously did not have one. Luckily, he had a rich man with him. Meng Jiugong took out a pill and tossed it to the old man. The old man said, The halberd of Dao is stuck deep inside. You can see the tip of the halberd outside the immortal slaying river. On top of that, with the halberd as the center, the land within 100,000 li has ceased to exist. It has turned into an abyss. At the bottom of the abyss, there's an enormous skull of a beast slowly rising. It must be the passage that leads to a mysterious place. Based on our current speed, a path will appear on the immortal slaying river in around 5 days. The skull of the beast will be fully raised, allowing us to enter the place. White flames flickered in Qin Nan's eyes. In other words, 5 days left? At this moment, at the entrance of the first sacred area, the number of cultivators in the cities continued to increase. The storm that Qin Nan had stirred up seemed to be getting stronger. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a beam of immortal light shone down from the eastern sky and landed on the door standing on the sea. What's going on? Many cultivators immediately raised their heads when they sensed it. Around half the period it took an incense stick to burn, the immortal ray suddenly dissipated. It turned into the illusionary figure of an ancient lamp floating in the air with a golden flame burning inside it. The process only lasted for 10 breaths before it disappeared. That ancient lamp, could it be the exquisite immortal lamp? Exquisite immortal lamp? What's that? It's the exquisite immortal lamp, one of the 3 unique Tao that is on par with the tree of wonderful fruit. Rumors say that the lamp has a mystical immortal flame. If you can find it, you might be able to achieve the perfect stage of the Tao realm. The cultivators were startled upon hearing the words. One had to know that every single one of the 3 paths of Peerless was something that could only be discovered but not sought after. The tree of wonderful fruit had attracted a few dozen exceptional geniuses, shocking the 9 heavens. The news that the exquisite immortal lamp had shown up in the first sacred area soon spread across the supreme transforming realms and even the 9 heavens immortal realm. The exquisite immortal lamp has shown up? Very well, if that's the case, I'll pay the first sacred area a visit. Master, you don't have to stop me. I'm an exceptional genius, so what if I'm in the death zone? If I don't have the confidence to become a 9 heavens supreme, I won't be able to achieve it for the rest of my life. Ha ha ha, show me the power of your death zone. I'm looking for the 2 saints, Qin Nan and Jiang and I to spar with. The experts and the exceptional geniuses unleashed their will and headed for the first sacred area. Chapter 1992. The first sacred area. The Supreme Mountain Qin Nan and Meng Jiogong had a discussion after learning the time. They decided to split up for the time being. Meng Jiogong had the flesh of good luck, yet he was quite fond of gambling. He went straight to the dark ring. Qin Nan asked him for a lot of sacred medicine and went for a stroll on the street. There were quite a lot of Tao arts being sold in this place. He had to make good use of the time he had. This saber art seems quite interesting. Qin Nan soon noticed something. He began to bargain with the vendors. Half a day was gone fairly quickly. Qin Nan bought 3 Tao arts in total. 1 was a fire-controlling Tao art, and 2 were saber art. He also heard a lot of news on the street. For example, the Hall of Rogue Immortals and the Heaven Will Pavilion had always been at odds with one another. They were in charge of the North and the South respectively. Some time ago, the sacred disciple of the Mumen sect, nameless Nye, and the sacred disciple of the Sherdao tribe, Xiang Tianqi, fought to a draw. Supreme art? Qin Nan suddenly came to a stop. In front of him was a white-haired old man in a tattered robe. His hair was disheveled, yet it did not look messy. It felt rather otherworldly instead. He was only in the early stage of the peerless ruler realm. You can achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm without any fortunate encounters? Qin Nan raised his brows. He said, Cultivator, how can you achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm without any fortunate encounters? The white-haired old man slowly opened his eyes. He looked at Qin Nan and said, If you want to know, you can just buy the art. Qin Nan shook his head. First of all, what you said is too shocking. Second of all, how can anyone believe you when you don't have any proof? Even if you're telling the truth, no one is going to buy it. The white-haired old man frowned. He said after a slight ponder, You're right, but I don't have anything to prove it. However, I can tell you something else. You've changed your appearance and embarked on an extraordinary path of cultivation, am I right? Qin Nan was shocked. The old white-haired man was clearly in the early stage of the peerless ruler realm. He did not use any eye technique throughout the process. How did he know Qin Nan had changed his appearance? Most importantly, How could he tell that he had refined the tree of Tao and embarked on an extraordinary path? Even if the old white-haired man's cultivation had reached the peerless ruler realm, or even the nine heavens supreme realm, there was no way he could do it. Could it be was this white-haired old man an even more terrifying expert? You don't have to think too much. My name is Li Bei. I once stayed in the superfluous lifeless sect, but I left later. I have no children, no relatives, and no friends. I'm all alone. The fact that I'm able to see all this on you is merely because the Tao that I walk is also extraordinary, Li Bei said calmly. The nine heavens immortal realm is indeed full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. I didn't expect to meet someone like you. Qin Nan's eyes revealed a trace of doubt. But why would you sell such a precious supreme skill? Li Bei fell silent for a moment before he said, even though I'm all alone, I once owed someone a favor. I'm only returning it now. Qin Nan said after a slight hesitation, if that's the case, I'll buy it from you. Give me a price. Even if the supreme skill was a fake, he would not lose anything. If it was real, he would be making a great deal out of it. The supreme Taoism factions and formidable factions placed great importance on their arts of Tao seeking. It was the reason why it was easy to practice an art of Tao seeking, but difficult to invent one. It was the same for everything else too. 3 immortal blessing sacred healing pills, Li Bei said. Qin Nan tossed a storage bag to Li Bei without hesitation. Li Bei's calm eyes flickered slightly. He glanced at Qin Nan again, as if he was trying to remember Qin Nan's face. Holy crap, am I seeing things? Is there really an idiot in this world who's willing to spend 3 immortal blessing sacred healing pills on a scammer? Right at this moment, an incomparably surprised voice sounded. Qin Nan glanced at the voice and saw a young man whose hair was tied up in a ponytail. His face was filled with astonishment as he was escorted by a few cultivators. Did he really sell it? The other vendors on the street also did the same when they heard this. 3 immortal blessing sacred healing pills were quite a fortune. Brother, let me give you a piece of advice. That old man is a scammer. He came here 1,000 years ago, but not only did he fail to achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm, his cultivation was only at the early stage of the peerless ruler realm. You should take the pills back, the young man said. His eyes were filled with disdain as he looked at Qin Nan. In his opinion, Qin Nan was being delusional, thinking that the old man was some kind of expert who had discovered some kind of peerless method. The other vendors shared the same thought too. They felt a little troubled too. If they knew the old man was so gullible, they would have asked him to stay. It's fine, I'm willing, Qin Nan said calmly. Huh? I say, why are you so stubborn? I'm trying to give you a piece of advice, yet you're not listening? The young man was a little annoyed. He said with a hollow laugh when he saw Li Bei packing up his stall and was about to leave, You think you can leave after scamming 3 immortal blessing sacred healing pills? Hand them over. Li Bei ignored him and continued forward. How dare you ignore me, Li Bei? You've got guts. The young man snapped. His hand emitted an immortal glow as he grabbed at Li Bei. Normally, no one was allowed to use violence on the Supreme Mountain. However, once they did, they would be safe as long as they paid a certain amount of pills. Li Bei came to a stop. It felt like thousands of demons were bursting out of his eyes. Bang! A great pressure surged into the young man's heart. His figure stiffened. However, the young man soon collected his thoughts. He clenched his teeth and said, Li Bei, how dare you use unorthodox methods on me? I'm going to teach you a lesson. Brothers, let's go. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. This Li Bei had indeed practiced some extraordinary martial arts, but it felt like something was restricting him, preventing him from utilizing his full strength. Having this thought, Qin Nan stood in front of Li Bei and said in a calm tone, Cultivator, I was willing to make a deal with him. How is he a liar? What right do you have to ask him to hand over the pills? Many vendors on the street, including the young man and a few other cultivators, were startled. They did not expect the young man to stick his neck out after being tricked. How ridiculous! I've been in the death zone for 30 years, yet I've never seen anyone as foolish as you. Chapter 1993. When the matter is settled, I will leave. Qin Nan frowned. Why did he always meet such arrogant people who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth just because they had some background? Why are you still standing here? Didn't you hear it clearly? Cram. Seeing that Qin Nan wasn't moving at all, the young man shouted again. Qin Nan couldn't be bothered to speak and directly slapped him. But the hearts of the cultivators on the street shuddered. Following this, the young man let out a cry of agony as his figure was sent flying like an arrow, crashing into the ground in the distance. How dare you! The cultivators around the young man glared at Qin Nan. They were about to attack when Qin Nan kicked them in the chest. A few more cries of agony could be heard. The strongest among them was only in the greater success stage of the peerless ruler realm. Qin Nan could easily kill them with just a little of his strength. Li Bei glanced at Qin Nan and cupped his hands. Thank you. Qin Nan waved his hand dismissively. Li Bei didn't say anything else and left. Qin Nan acted as if nothing had happened. Under everyone's gaze, he walked forward. His divine thought quickly entered Li Bei's jade slip. He was very interested in this supreme technique. There's no such thing as opportunity in the 72 sacred zones of the heavens and earth. The first sentence caught Qin Nan's attention, and he was completely immersed in it. After an unknown period of time, Qin Nan came back to his senses. His eyes were full of splendor. As a matter of fact, the Nine Heavens Supreme Art was not a martial art that could help one achieve the Nine Heavens Supreme Realm, but Li Bei's comprehension. Li Bei had been to every one of the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth. He did not take part in any of the successions or loot. He only followed the rules of the sacred areas and observed them carefully. In the end, he arrived at the death zone, which confirmed one of his thoughts. Any peak peerless ruler could become a Nine Heavens Supreme even if they were not in the 72 sacred areas of the heavens and earth, but it was extremely difficult. The 72 sacred zones of the heavens and earth only existed to reduce the difficulty. The concept of opportunity didn't exist at all. If one wanted to become a supreme being, they had to have enough accumulation and break through a critical point. Even though the idea seemed simple enough, and many people were able to guess it, including Qin Nan himself, it was extremely difficult to prove it. Most cultivators in the Nine Heavens immortal realm would not spend so much time trying to verify the theory. They would rather believe it was a fortunate encounter. Li Bei traveled to the 72 sacred zones of heaven and earth and stayed in the death zone for more than 1,000 years. His cultivation even fell from the peak to the early stage. I'm afraid he wasn't doing it to verify his ideas but to cultivate the extraordinary path, Qin Nan thought to himself. However, having guessed this, Qin Nan did not have the intention to inquire further. As far as he was concerned, the more cultivators like Li Bei the better. That way, his future path of cultivation would be more interesting. Qin Nan, we should leave this place. Meanwhile, Meng Jiugong caught up with them. His face was flushed with excitement. It was obvious that he had won quite a lot. Qin Nan nodded. The effect of the mask could only last for a day. It was almost time. He did not want to expose himself before heading to the mysterious place that the pattern spirit mentioned. The two flew out of the Supreme Mountain and went to a forest at the edge of the Land of Deer. They set up various concealment formations. The immortal slaying river would be accessible in 5 days. The cultivators in the Supreme City would all head there. They just had to go together. Meng Jiugong seemed to be restless. He kept nagging beside them. Qin Nan would respond at first, but he eventually ignored him and sat on the ground to cultivate. Meng Jiugong had no choice but to give up after trying a few times. He felt bored. By the way, Qin Nan is the bane of my flesh of good luck. It might be different if I practice the flesh of good luck beside him. Meng Jiugong's eyes glittered. He sat up straight and calmed his thoughts. His body began to emit a faint red glow. This light was what countless cultivators referred to as luck. As I thought, it's 10 times slower than usual, Meng Jiugong murmured. He was startled all of a sudden. Qin Nan's eyes sprang open too. He looked at Meng Jiugong. The flower of eternity in Meng Jiugong's divine sense shuddered when he was cultivating. Qin Nan, are you one of the 10 ancient fleshly bodies? Meng Jiugong asked. Why do you ask? Qin Nan remained expressionless. I sensed a ripple of energy in your body when I was cultivating. It's the energy that's suppressing my flesh of good luck. Meng Jiugong said, only the 10 ancient fleshly bodies can do that, and it's at least the second-ranked flesh of devour. He came to a realization upon saying this. Qin Nan might not have the flesh of bad luck, but he must have the flesh of devour, which was why it was suppressing him. You're overthinking it, I don't have the flesh of devour. Qin Nan shook his head. He clearly knew that the flower of eternity was suppressing the flesh of good luck. After all, the former was the first flesh of devour. Huh? Isn't that right? That's strange. Qin Nan immediately switched the topic when he saw Meng Jiugong frowning. Meng Jiugong, how much do you know about the impenetrable sacred flesh? Meng Jiugong was startled. His frown eased as his eyes flickered with respect. I don't know much about the flesh, but I've read many records. Anyone who possesses the flesh is unbeatable in the same realm. Besides, according to the ancient rumors, the impenetrable sacred flesh can evolve into the flesh of eternity. Once it reaches that level, it's undying and terrifying. Qin Nan was astounded. Flesh of eternity? Did that mean the flower of eternity was the key to evolving the impenetrable sacred flesh? The more Qin Nan thought about it, the more convinced he was. Otherwise, the beast-hide drawing would not keep sending people to protect his life. Forget it, I'll stop thinking about it. Qin Nan took a deep breath and shook his head. Even though he treated the beast-hide drawing as his enemy, he was still no match against the beast-hide drawing. He had to reach the Master Realm at least to fight the beast-hide drawing. The two chatted for a while before sitting down with their legs crossed to cultivate. However, Qin Nan was too focused on the halberd of Cheeto and the mysterious place. He completely forgot about one thing. The flower of eternity in his divine sense was emitting wisps of energy to influence the place. Chapter 1994. The immortal deer descends 2 days later. Meng Jiugong learned that the exquisite immortal lamp was going to appear in the first sacred area from the disciples of the 9-palace golden immortal sect who had entered the death zone. Qin Nan was not interested in it. He would not be interested in any treasure before he found the thing that the pattern spirit mentioned, not to mention that he still had a few fruits of the heavens and earth. Even though it was not like the exquisite immortal lamp which could help him achieve the perfect stage of the Tao realm, it was still possible for him to achieve the greater success stage of the Tao realm with just one of them. Qin Nan's eyes sprang open all of a sudden. He stared at the sky ahead. What is it? Meng Jiugong asked. Qin Nan's eyes burst into white flames. He said, I just sensed a slight reaction from the mysterious rift above the land of deer. Meng Jiugong was startled. He took a closer look and said with a smile, Qin Nan, aren't you being too nervous? I've already asked around. The next time the immortal deer descends will be at least 3 months later. His eyes widened before he could finish. He blurted out, Holy crap! Wisps of golden light appeared in the mysterious rift and swept across the area within a few 100,000 li at lightning speed. On top of that, every stalk of grass on the ground was dancing on their own despite the absence of wind. They were even emitting a faint glow. Even though the rare phenomenon before them was not too shocking, its significance was obvious since it had appeared in the land of Deer Chaser. While Meng Jiugong was astounded, the cultivators on Mount Supreme were startled too. Several figures flew out from different entrances. It's really the golden light and the dancing immortal herbs. What's going on? Aren't we supposed to wait for another 3 months? Quick, tell the hall leaders and the others what's going on. Over 1,000 cultivators were astounded by the sight. They quickly collected their thoughts and took out their badges to transmit their thoughts. Qin Nan stopped cultivating and looked at the scene in front of him. He didn't have any thoughts about the immortal deers in the deer-chasing land for the time being. However, it was fine to see them with his own eyes. Very quickly, 6 hours passed. The golden light in the sky became more and more numerous, and the light emitted by the immortal herbs on the ground also became brighter and brighter. Following it, a series of singing, guqin, flute, etc. echoed across the place. At first, it was barely audible, but in the end it became louder and louder. He's here! Qin Nan shouted in a low voice. Boom! A shocking explosion took place. A huge hole was torn open in the mysterious rift, as if it had just received a great blow. A pure white, immortal glow burst out from it. All the cultivators held their breath. The entire world suddenly fell silent. It was as if time and space had been frozen. 1 breath, 10 breaths, 100 breaths. After some time, a faint blue beast's hoof stepped out from the rift and landed on the immortal glow. The beast's hoof tapped the immortal glow a few times, as if it was trying to confirm if it was solid enough. It slowly walked out from it. The immortal deer was over 5 zhang tall. Its eyes were purple, its horns were black, and its body was covered in a faint blue glow. Its back was covered in golden runes, yet it was not emitting any aura. Such a strange aura! Qin Nan's eyes flickered. The immortal deer did not possess any cultivation, yet its body was so vague that it was impossible to land a hit on it with Dao arts or immortal arts. After the first immortal deer appeared, it quickly walked onto the grass. It didn't seem to notice the countless cultivators looking at it. It lowered its head and took a bite of the immortal grass. Its face immediately wore an expression of enjoyment, before it let out a strange cry. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. One immortal deer after another flew out from the gap and landed on the grass. Over 70 immortal deers had arrived in just a few breaths' time. In the end, when the number reached 100, the broken void slowly closed. Over 100 immortal deers. It's been at least 500 years since so many immortal deers showed up at once. Ha ha ha, my chance to become a 9 Heavens Supreme is finally here. The cultivators of the Supreme Mountain were startled, before their faces were filled with joy. Shocking auras burst out of their bodies and turned into immortal rays that sprang at the grassland. The surrounding rift shuddered violently. Holy crap! Meng Jiugong was given a great fright. The sight before him was simply too spectacular. It felt like an army was pouring out of Mount Supreme. Their numbers were too many to count, and they were going to crush everything in front of them. The scene that took place when they were competing for the fruits of the heavens and earth was nothing compared to this. Besides, the immortal deers had only shown up all of a sudden. How spectacular would it be if the immortal deers only showed up after a few months? Bang bang bang! A series of deafening explosions took place in less than a breath's time. Countless Dao arts and immortal arts collided with one another, resulting in strong gusts of wind. The whole land of deers was lit up by the light emitted by the cultivators. In such a large-scale battle, even the existence of some peerless geniuses was not particularly conspicuous. Qin Nan, it's a rare opportunity. Are you sure you don't want to take one of them? Meng Jiugong asked. He was eager to give it a try. Unfortunately, his cultivation was too weak. If he was a peerless ruler in the early stage, he would have made his way into the battle too. Forget it, it's better for me to stay here and watch. Qin Nan shook his head to calm the boiling blood in his body. He had already noticed many experts in the peerless ruler realm who had mastered the greater success stage of the Tao realm with a single glance. Huh! Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. Why was the flower of eternity in his divine sense glowing on its own? Just as he was deep in thought, a strange feeling suddenly rose in his heart. He immediately raised his head and looked to the left in front of him. His gaze went past the Tao arts and the cultivators. Qin Nan's gaze eventually met the eyes of an immortal deer. On top of that, Qin Nan clearly saw a burning emotion in the pair of purple eyes. Qin Nan frowned slightly. He soon saw 3 immortal deers not far away eating immortal herbs. They suddenly raised their heads and fixed their eyes on Qin Nan. His eyes also flashed with a fiery emotion. Chapter 1995. A great chase that shook the heavens and earth. This gaze gave him a very familiar feeling. It was when he first came to the Qinglong sacred area. A bunch of strange creatures called the Tao-seeking fish had their eyes on the chaos qi in his body. They ended up swarming toward him, resulting in a series of troubles. Meanwhile, Qin Nan saw 25 immortal deers lifting their heads and staring at him with the same look in their eyes. Don't tell me the immortal deers are after the flower of eternity? The thought crossed Qin Nan's mind. His hair stood on its end. No way. He could not stay here any longer. As soon as Qin Nan made up his mind, Meng Jiugong said, Qin Nan, look, those 2 are the sacred disciple of the Mumen sect, Nie Wufeng, the exceptional genius of the extreme living gate, Jiang and I, and the exceptional genius of the reincarnation sect, Lu Gufeng. Qin Nan subconsciously looked in their direction. Jiang and I wore a calm expression in the middle of the battle. He was wearing a white robe. He was not stained by the blood that was pouring down on him. 2 magnificent figures floated behind him. They were emitting strong auras while the swords in their hands were emitting brilliant glows. They were still eye-catching even when thousands of Tao arts were pouring down from all directions. His cultivation had improved to the peak peerless ruler realm in the past 2 months. On the other side, there was a young man with eyes as white as snow. He wore a black mask, and his black hair fell to his ankles. He emitted a cold and deathly aura, and 3 ancient tombs floated behind him. He was unstoppable. The sacred disciple of the Mumen sect, Nie Wufeng. Lu Gufeng was a lot more discreet compared to the 2. His eyes were pitch black as he unleashed wisps of sword intense like dragons. A black realm of reincarnation was established behind him to reincarnate the Tao arts and immortal arts nearby. Over the past 2 months, not only did Lu Gufeng stumble into some fortunate encounters, he also learned the peerless secret arts of the reincarnation sect. His cultivation had improved to the peak peerless ruler realm too. Qin Nan collected his thoughts and grabbed Meng Jiugong. Forget about it, let's leave at once. Meng Jiugong was startled. He said, Why are we leaving? Isn't it good for us to watch from here? This level of battle is very rare to see. Qin Nan, an immortal deer, seems to be running towards us. The first immortal deer that met Qin Nan's gaze completely gave up on the tempting immortal grass in front of it. It spread its hooves and ran towards Qin Nan and Qin Nan. Such a strange action caused many of the cultivators who were fighting over it to be stunned on the spot. Qin Nan was slightly shocked. F***ck Qin Nan, another 28 immortal deer are running towards us. Meng Jiugong was shocked and a little excited. Could it be that his body of good luck had taken effect, making these immortal deer uncontrollably want to come to his side? Qin Nan's heart sank. He was not worried that the immortal deer would set their eyes on the flower of eternity. There was no way the immortal deer could devour the flower of eternity. However, every immortal deer was a chance to achieve the 9 heavens' supreme realm. It was something that many cultivators dreamed of. Besides, in such a huge battlefield, only a few immortal deer were behaving strangely. It was not a big deal, but it was a different story if there were 29 of them. As Qin Nan thought, the cultivators in the land of deer were startled when they saw the immortal deer leaving. They only collected their thoughts when they saw the immortal deer rising into the air and leaving the land of deer. Their faces were filled with astonishment. What's going on? Why are the immortal deer heading that way? Some of them had stayed in the death zone for more than 100 years, or even over 1,000 years, yet they had never seen such a strange sight. Let's go. Qin Nan immediately unleashed the immortal force in his body and executed the unstoppable step, charging forward at full speed. The 29 immortal deer uttered cries and picked up their pace too. Look, there are 2 cultivators over there. Are the immortal deer chasing after them? How is that possible? Why would the immortal deer chase after cultivators? The cultivators were startled once again. A peerless ruler of the 8-eyed tribe, who had just entered the death zone not long ago, blurted out in astonishment, "That's Qin Nan, the successor of the 5th immortal Qin Nan." The words exploded like a thunderclap from the 9 heavens. Everyone knew Qin Nan's name. Even the cultivators who had entered the death zone a few hundred or 1,000 years ago had heard about it. Besides, 2 days ago, many factions had sent their people to inform them of what to do if they stumbled into Qin Nan. Jiang Enai, Nie Wufeng, and Lu Gufeng, who were in the middle of a battle, halted in their tracks. Chase after him. Without any hesitation, Jiang Enai, Nie Wufeng, and Lu Gufeng immediately executed their movement techniques and flew toward Qin Nan. Nie Wufeng, in particular, immediately transmitted his thoughts to the cultivators of the Mumen sect. Let's chase after him. The rest of the cultivators quickly collected their thoughts too. They turned into rays of light and charged at the 29 immortal deer. The cultivators on the grand battlefield were suddenly reduced by 40%. Qin Nan was related to the 5th immortal, the capital of future, and the halberd Qigu. He had a lot of secrets. Once they managed to capture and kill him, it would be a great contribution to their factions. Besides, the immortal deer they were after were right behind Qin Nan. Besides, if Qin Nan was able to attract 29 immortal deer to chase after him, he must have some kind of precious artifact on him. If they could claim it, the benefits would be unimaginable. F***Kmi Qin Nan, let's run for our lives. Meng Jiugong's face turned pale when he saw the densely packed figures behind him. His initial excitement completely dissipated. He had been through a lot, yet how terrifying was it to be hunted down by so many exceptional geniuses and peerless rulers. As if I need you to tell me that. Qin Nan rolled his eyes and raised his speed to the limit. Even though he had the flower of eternity in his body, allowing him to ignore the attacks of the peerless rulers, it was too easy for him to go against more than 1,000 exceptional geniuses and peerless rulers at once. Besides, there were still 2 days until the immortal slaying river was accessible. He did not want to waste all his energy fighting against so many enemies. Chapter 1996. Going against the will. Qin Nan's eyes glittered. He could only feel that shackles had appeared one after another in the unseen world, locking his body and making him extremely heavy. His speed had decreased by more than 50%. What a surprise! These immortal deers are able to utilize the rules of cultivation of the first sacred area. Qin Nan murmured. He unleashed the divine battle spirit and the Lord of all worlds. He even activated the tree of Tao secretly. Even so, his speed was still reduced by 30%. Qin Nan, let's split up. These immortal deers are after my flesh of good luck. Meng Jiugong said while clenching his teeth. Qin Nan's lips twisted. He snapped, "What does it have to do with your flesh of good luck?" However, he quickly realized that if he allowed the situation to continue, the immortal deers, Jiang Enai, Nie Wufeng, Lu Gufeng, and the rest of the exceptional geniuses and peerless rulers would catch up to him sooner or later. He might as well use the white-blue flower and leave the immortal deers alone. The immortal deers would not be able to do anything to it. He could summon the white-blue flower back when he was safe. Having this thought, Qin Nan did not hesitate. With a thought, the white-blue flower turned into a white ray of light and flew in another direction. The immortal deers immediately screeched and turned around. They no longer bothered with Qin Nan. The rules of cultivation that Qin Nan was applying to him dissipated too. The immortal deers are flying away. Qin Nan seems to have used something to lure them away. The eyes of the cultivators glittered upon seeing this. Most of them immediately turned around and followed the immortal deers. To them, taking down an immortal deer was their priority. It would be best if they could claim the strange object that Qin Nan had used. Even so, more than 100 peerless rulers led by Jiang Enai, Nie Wufeng, and Lu Gufeng were still chasing after Qin Nan. Phew! Qin Nan exhaled softly. With his current cultivation and the long distance between them, Jiang Enai, Nie Wufeng, and Lu Gufeng would definitely not be able to catch up. Fellow Taoists, today is not the right time, so there's no need to continue the chase. When the time comes, I will go to where Chigu's halberd is. If you want to fight again, I will accompany you to the end. Qin Nan's voice was like thunder, resounding in all directions. However, not only did Jiang Enai, Nie Wufeng, and Lu Gufeng not have any intention of slowing down, they instead executed various shocking methods to increase their speed. Qin Nan shook his head and ignored them. Meng Jiugong, on the other hand, said after his heart sank, "Qin Nan, I'll give you some luck." Qin Nan agreed. He did not reject Meng Jiugong's offer. He allowed the red rays to enter his body. The period it took half an incense stick to burn was gone fairly quickly. Jiang Enai and the others finally gave up on the thought of chasing after Qin Nan. Perhaps it was because of Meng Jiugong's luck. Withdraw. Qin Nan stood on a tree and unleashed his divine sense. After a few dozen breaths, the white-blue flower came back to him at an astonishing speed and returned to his sea of consciousness. Qin Nan frowned after taking a closer look. The white-blue flower was perfectly fine, but not only were the white and blue colors intertwined with one another, it was also emitting 5 faint golden rays. Qin Nan, what kind of flower is that? Meng Jiugong's eyes widened. He could sense that the energy the flower was emitting was suppressing his flesh of good luck. Qin Nan ignored him. He fired a saber intent at the white-blue flower. He was relieved when he saw that the flower did not budge. He withdrew the saber intent into his body. It seems like I should catch a few cultivators who were chasing after the immortal deers and ask them what happened. Qin Nan murmured. But it's a pity that I couldn't witness such a magnificent battle with my own eyes. Qin Nan shook his head. He looked at Meng Jiugong and said after a slight ponder, I can't tell you for now. Let's wait for a while. Meng Jiugong shrugged and said, All right, but can you do me a favor? Release the flower for a few days. I need to use it to train my flesh. Qin Nan did not reject the request. The two flew into the distance. They could not return to the Supreme City. They had no choice but to find a place close to the immortal slaying river to hide and wait for the right time. 12 hours were gone in the blink of an eye. The two arrived at a mountain range with a strong immortal aura and beautiful scenery. It was a great difference compared to the immortal Deer's Valley. Qin Nan suddenly looked at Meng Jiugong beside him. Is that? Meng Jiugong's eyes sprang open in astonishment. What's going on? Qin Nan's eyes burst into white flames as he scanned the surroundings. He had just sensed a mysterious force entering Meng Jiugong's body, as if it had traveled across time and space. I don't know either, I think it's the force of reincarnation. Let me show you. Meng Jiugong frowned. With a thought, wisps of pitch-black force of reincarnation floated out of his palm and formed an illusionary talisman. Force of reincarnation? Lu Gufeng? Qin Nan was startled. He quickly pointed at the talisman after realizing what it was. A forbidding aura cracked open. Wisps of the force of reincarnation rose into the air and formed an illusionary figure. It was none other than Lu Gufeng. Meng Jiugong. Qin Nan, this isn't good. Lu Gufeng's voice was hoarse. Both Qin Nan and Meng Jiugong shuddered upon hearing the words. This is my pass. 10 ancient greats. Physique. Special connection. For you. Send. News. After you left. I'm reborn. I've just returned. The land of Zhuelu. The land of, his intermittent voice echoed in the woods. Qin Nan's lips twisted after some time. Meng Jiugong's expression darkened too. Was this guy out of his mind? He clearly had a weird habit of only saying 3 words at a time, yet he had to explain in detail how he had returned to the land of Zhuelu and fought against Niao Wufeng and some other exceptional geniuses. If it weren't for how strange it was, they would simply turn around and leave. Then, I encountered a god in a mysterious black robe and fought with him. After a few hundred breaths of time, his voice became heavy. I lost miserably. I was directly absorbed by the other party. He took it away. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.